From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy-watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya! Tonight it's episode 62 and we are talking about science fiction film Edge of Tomorrow. It came out in 2014. In tonight's episode we will reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of narrative, plus the film language, and then a deep dive into a specific piece of science that Surrey likes, that the filmmakers are proposing as well in Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow was directed by dougliman. I don't actually know, or is it Lemon?
Lyman?
Lemon. I really thought about this.
Doug, get in touch and let us know.
I know, get in touch, Doug. Or Tom. Tom is the star of this film.
I keep trying to book Tom Cruise, but he keeps having this thing come up. I think it's called Everything Else in His Life.
Yeah, or Emily, I saw her husband John Krasinski called her M, so maybe M just wants to get in contact with us.
No, well, I know her as Blunto.
Blunto, jeez.
Blunto,
that was back in the day.
Down at the servo.
Back in that pub.
Down the servo, who had got a sort of sanger and a snag sandwich.
Fair enough. Okay, well, if Surrey, you know Blunto, get her involved and correct us on Doug's name. They might both be like, who's Doug? This was written by a couple of different screenplay writers. We've got christophermcquarrie, jezbutterworth, and then John Henry Butterworth. I'm presuming they're brothers or
Buttos.
The Buttos. And then it was also based on the novel. I can't read that now. Sorry.
All You Need Is Kill
by Hiroshi Sakazaka.
I do like that title, All You Need Is Kill.
So it's a Japanese author back in about 2001, I believe, by memory, and he wrote that novel, and that's where it was optioned. Like, it was one of these things you look online, like it was optioned very quickly by producers, and it took a few years to get finally made into a screenplay, but automatically that novel was like picked up.
Well,
I liked it.
I reckon it was the title. The title is just, I did that little sing-songy bit because it just sounds, it's the Beatles, All You Need Is Love. But,
yeah.
But you could also sort of, All You Need Is Hate, but kill is such a very fast ending word. That's just, it's All You Need Is Kill. It's beautiful.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to now reveal everything about this film, so I'm about to say it.
So let's just talk about all the spoiler warning.
Jeez, come on.
Okay, turn back. If you haven't seen this film, turn back.
Cut me off.
Turn back now and watch it, and then get back to this point here. And if you succeed in continuing on, fine. But if you don't, you're going back again. Uh-oh, did I just spoil it? Warning.
Warning. Well, as Surrey just said, this film is about a soldier that goes into battle. When a soldier goes into battle, and a soldier goes into battle, when a soldier goes into battle, and then he wakes up and he's about to go into battle, and he wakes... Okay, you get the gist. It's a time loop movie. I love these kind of movies. Do you remember Groundhog Day?
Do you remember?
Did you see that at the movies, Groundhog Day?
I saw it. I've seen it several times.
Yeah, no, but did you see it on the big screen when it came out in the early 90s? Did you realise what you were watching when you watched Groundhog Day?
Just the very title and the poster, it didn't make me go to the cinema.
No?
No.
Not even Bill Murray?
No,
Jeez.
I don't see
Who are you?
I don't see that sort of film in the cinema. I saw it on a TV.
I don't know who he is. Turn away now. Tune into my podcast on the side, Space Brain. Okay, Space Brain is coming soon. no Surreys allowed. Okay.
So tell me about this. Tell me about this soldier who goes into battle multiple times.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, and the way I described this was, it's like an incapable, cowardly captain,
Major,
soldier,
isn't he?
major, whatever the hell he is. I don't know.
Major Cage.
Major is forced into like a D-Day, because this film really references D-Day. So we're going to come back to that.
Big time.
Yeah, it's big time. Into a D-Day version of an alien invasion on the French beaches as a grunt soldier for disobeying the general. But when he is killed by a special sort of alien in the battle, he dies and then awakens again in this time loop scenario to live the battle over and 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 over again.
And again? Yes.
And again. Constantly. So that's my synopsis. The version on IMDb is a bit different, but that's my version of the film. Sorry. I'm done for tonight. I'm done. Yeah. I'm leaving. Bye.
You could say...
See ya.
It's a coming-of-age story set to the backdrop of a world gone mad in the grips of a vicious war.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. And the thing is, don't you feel that this film was almost like a computer game? Like the way it was kind of that was rolled out. Like I think if you go back to
think of that, but yeah.
When you go back to like Groundhog Day, it doesn't feel like a computer game. But when I watched this, it felt like we could have almost been controlling little Tommy Cruise, and like, you know, it's like, oh, have another go and have another go and have another go, you know, and it's just that sort of, it's because it's so epic and so big. In
the gaming world, it's called save spamming.
Okay, well there you go.
Where you basically save the game just before a hard bit, and you do it. And when you fail, you learn that extra little bit of the pattern that the boss monster uses.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you do it a little bit further and a little bit further, and maybe you get one more step in, so you do another save point, and then you get through the game just basically by save spamming.
Because
like
did you
saving, reloading until you get past each part?
Yeah, that's right. And because you notice that there's a couple of points in this film where he kind of Cage, which is the character played by Tom Cruise, he goes, we don't get any further. You know, how do you get any further? And it's kind of almost like he has to think laterally or think outside the box, which is very computer game. It's like saying, oh, hang on. If I don't have to save her, I could go another path. And I never realized that. You know? And that's what computer games are like, in my mind.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong. What was your number one takeaway, from Edge of Tomorrow?
Bill Paxton is amazing.
He's always amazing.
And this is the second movie, Terminator. We saw him. He was a little bit part. This one, he's got a small role.
Tiny role in Terminator.
He's so good in this.
He's much bigger role in this.
He's so good in this. And we are going to see more of his films. He appears in at least one other fantastic science fiction film that I know of.
He does.
Which is having his 35th birthday this year, in fact. Aliens.
Ooh.
Yes, he's Hudson. He's Hicks. That's Hudson.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing with him is, in this film, it doesn't kind of look like Bill Paxton.
No, when he first came in and said, so soldier, I'll take over from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here. That's it. Yeah.
I'll Kentucky.
I'll take over from here. I'm from Science Hill in Kentucky. Kentucky? Tennessee?
It's Kentucky.
Kentucky. God knows. Kentucky. Don't know, don't care.
No.
Yeah, so I was just a little bit fooled at first going, is that him? Because he does have a strong Texan accent, as I understand it. And yeah, but it was very good. He has his little speech that he gives and his facial expressions and his body language.
He's brilliant.
Wonderful. Died too early. He had a few more great movies in him, I'm sure.
Oh, I think so. Many more. But it's the same as, and this film references Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
Right? Did you notice the reference on the bus?
No.
Full Metal Bitch.
Oh, Full Metal Bitch. Yeah, okay. I see. Sure.
In referencing your old mate, Blunto.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I saw that, and because they keep showing it, and this film does do a bit of Full Metal Jacket, which is like, these soldiers are kind of like stuck in this war zone, this battle, and in this case, in a sci-fi version, it's a time loop. in Full Metal Jacket, they're just in this hellish, they're stuck in the battle.
Yeah.
But there's the other reference, right? Like it's the boot camp. It's the major in Full Metal Jacket is just this real up your ass, like not unrelenting major training guy. And I've seen some other stuff about that. Go check that actor out. He's amazing. He was actually a military general.
He was a drill sergeant.
Yeah, he was a drill sergeant. Like, it's incredible that Kubrick picked him. I saw a whole thing about that.
He was, originally just the, technical advisor.
To
help the boot camp drill instructor to do it.
But Kubrick was like,
saw him
no,
doing it and just went, no, you can't.
You're the guy.
You can't fake it.
Yeah, so Paxton, I think, definitely conjures up a bit of him, doesn't he?
I just, when he enters in and he takes control of it's hard to do with Tom Cruise there.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
he does take control of those scenes and leads them through very strongly.
And especially this Tom Cruise, because the character of Cage is that's why in my synopsis it's almost like at the start of the film, you talk about like 6 problems, like for the character. This guy he's incapable. And he admits he's incapable.
And he's a little bit pathetic too.
He's a bit pathetic. He's a coward. He doesn't actually know how to use a weapon. So when he comes up against Bill Paxton's character, Farrell, he almost like tries to out-talk him because that's his strength. And Bill Paxton's character doesn't. He dismisses him. He still takes control of him. So
his strength is that he has heard every bullshit line
out there. And also I think just that's a drill sergeant, right? Like a drill sergeant knows all of those lines to kind of ram them down. And I thought that, and before we get into kind of some of the nitty-gritty, it was pretty cool in this film that we're at Heathrow in that scene. So the Heathrow airport's been overtaken. It's now a military base. But we have those American parts of it, right? So Tom Cruise.
Yes.
We have Bill Paxton, the Kentucky, and they even joke about the towns they come from in that opening conversation. But then the grunts are British and Australians.
Yes.
Like, and so it's a real contrast in the J Squad, as they call them, like, they're not the Americans. Like, it's an interesting thing. And I think this film, without going into like heavy thematic version, because when we get to the midpoint of this film, we have that conversation about the British in the pub say the Americans didn't want to come and save us, and Tom Cruise is sitting there in the bar, and by this point we're on his side because he's fought the battle many times. Yeah. But the old British men having the beers are saying, "Oh, those Yanks didn't want to come and save us, in World War II. My grandpa did this, or my dad, or whatever."
Yeah, I think it's grandpa.
Like, grandpa, and it's true, right? Like what they're talking about is true, and he's an American sitting there having to put up with this sort of shit in the background. And so, I don't know, there's a bit of an underlining thing in this film of the British and the Americans and maybe the Australians playing a little bit of another role that wasn't celebrated.
Well, I think it's also a bit of a play for that concept of the Dirty Dozen, which is obviously used in the movie Dirty Dozen, but it's any of these band of misfits.
Yeah,
sort of, you know.
I mean, I think that's that's the logical thing. Like, as an audience, we want. I mean, how many of these sort of military is the fat guy, right? Like, but does the fat guy really get in the military?
Yeah, considering that.
Like, I always question
50 push-ups.
Like, how does he does 50 push-ups?
50 push-ups is hard for a fit, strong, healthy person.
That's right. I can't do 50 push-ups.
Doing another 50 push-ups.
I can't even do a podcast without breathing, Like, geez.
I think it's the US Marine fitness test. I think the top of, for youngsters is 70.
Yeah.
Like, if you hit 70 push-ups, you don't bother doing any more. You've reached it.
They always say in these movies, like, "Oh, you gave me a bit more, another 50." It's like, geez, so what? That fat guy has to do 100 push-ups?
Yeah.
I mean, how does he do it?
Great, crazy.
Anyway,
and there, I suppose the lack of discipline. But anyway, Mark, was this a hope, warning, or experiment?
I see this one as a warning because it's a pure cautionary tale in that. Not an alien invasion. There's many, many tales about alien invasions, and that's not cautionary enough. But in this film, the whole point of the time loop is that you can't just fight fire with fire. And the human response, since the caveman days is fire with fire, physicality with you want to fight me, sorry, you want to fight me, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I can do 50 push-ups.
We always have a bit of a wrestling match before we start recording.
That's right, like your bat is bigger than my bat. Oh, well, I've got a shotgun, right? It's going to blow you away,
this is a big bat I'm talking about.
I know you've got a big bat. We all know you've got a big bat, right? But I've got a shotgun. It's just going to spray you everywhere.
Get moving off this analogy.
This analogy is not going the right way. The whole thing I want to say is like the alien species here, although they come across as like extremely physical and it's like a D-Day battle zone, like we expect us versus the Germans in World War II, their advancement is the fact that they can like reset time.
They can save span, and we can't.
So they can play a battle out and just go, oh, that didn't work, let's go back another day, right? Like, how amazing is that battle as a plan?
Well, that reminds me that there's another sci-fi film, I can't remember what it's called, Yesterday, or Back in Time, or... Yeah, it's got the twins from Harry Potter, the redhead guys.
The Weasleys.
Yes, I can't remember. Can't remember his name. That's what I always think of anyway. But in that one, it's about time travel. Like this, for some reason, not given, male members of this family are able.
Oh no, that's About Time.
About Time, yes.
It's not the
that's Fred George.
Yeah, but what's his name? Dominic Gleeson.
Yeah,
is the main actor.
Right. Anyway, so you can go back in time, and they,
it's a good movie. That one. We do need to do that movie.
It ends up being, the way to enjoy your life in this is the first day. Just really, when you hit the day for the first time, just enjoy it. Just if there's something you want to say or do or experiment or whatever, just do it. At the end of the day, go back and now relive it, but like do it properly. Yeah, do it in a way that will enhance your life for the next day. Yeah. So that each day you live twice, once just kind of carefree and fun and playful and to see what happens, take those risks. Yeah. And then the next day, do it, sensibly so that the next day is a good day. Yeah. And it's kind of like this except with guns. This is like that with guns, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Do the battle, have fun, but then go back and start it again. And this time, like, don't
actually win the battle.
Just like you did last time, but stop dying.
But I think so. That's where I see it as a like a warning, because it's kind of like you can't just battle this alien species, which we've seen in many science fiction films.
Yes,
like Nucleum. Like Go Back, Independence Day. Like get up and charge up their main battles. Like instead, this film takes the take that, well, no, this alien species is superior to us in that they can construct time. So they run a day, and then if it doesn't quite work, the battle's not working, the best way to win the battle is like replay, like a chess move, really. And so realistically, we are the opposition playing someone that is not on our same level. They're totally on a superior level.
I can see what you're saying there, but I was always thinking this one more of an experiment. It's asking, if we did come across some situation that was unwinnable, it was perfect.
Yes.
Because it had this perfect knowledge. Could we take advantage of it? If we had that, what would we do? How would it work out?
Okay.
I see that. I saw it as a bit experimental, but
fair play. Okay, we'll be fighting after this episode.
Keep that.
And I'll be
keep that shotgun away. I don't want to be sprayed anymore.
Yeah, I'll be spraying everywhere. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the viewing experience. Like, have we seen this film before? What have we thought about it the first time? How we felt about it? So what was your first impression? Was this your first time watching this film?
This was not my first time.
Yep. So when did you watch it the first time?
Unsurprisingly, being a space brain, I watch a lot of science fiction movies.
Correct.
Even not just for space brains.
What?
This one here.
You hussy.
Jeez, did I watch this?
When did you watch this film?
I watched it with my wife.
Came out in 2014.
2014. Where was I?
You don't go to the movies. You've made that very clear tonight.
No, I go to see this at the movies. I don't go to see Bill. Lost in Translation scarred me. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Dreadfully not my style of film.
That's not sci-fi. Let's keep on
exactly. So I didn't know Groundhog Day had any of that sort of sort. But so I watched with my wife. Let's pretend I went to the cinemas.
Okay, we can pretend because we know you didn't.
I seem to think that I did. Because I don't,
big screen, big sound.
It was big sound, big screen. I do like Tom Cruise's science fiction of late.
Yeah,
he does pick good
seems to be doing
writing and so forth. And it blew me away.
Yeah,
because I didn't analyze it at the time. You know, as a space brain, I've watched it and kind of had a bit more of an in-depth analysis. But Correct. At the time, I didn't know what it was. But I came out of the film going that really just worked so well for me. And now I'm watching it this time. I thought a bit more about what it was, and I'm sure we'll get to. There's a couple of points in the film that I think work particularly well, which we'll get to. Yeah. But yeah, watching it this time, I was watching it and I wasn't sure if I was going to. You know, sometimes you rewatch a film and you just go through the motions of rewatching it.
Correct. Yeah.
And this one, just like Oblivion, Tom Cruise, the other one we did.
Yep.
I was surprised at how enjoyable it is to watch a second time.
Yeah.
So relatively recently, you know, I watched it the second time and I felt that, you know, engagement with Bill Paxton and the humor of the, you know, the grunts.
Yeah.
And his efforts, some of his efforts in time looping, you know, where he tries to roll away from the push-ups and he gets squished and Bill Paxton goes, "What would make a man do that?" And yeah, it's just, I was really engaged in it and pulled along on this story. And this time, I was able to go, that's that point there. That's the stakes just rose then. He's made a personal growth moment here. And here's this point here where, you know, whatever's happened, now we're in the end game moments. All of that really just falls together so well. So that was my first and second impressions.
Fair enough.
Mark, how'd the movie make you feel?
Well, it's like you're describing it quite well there. Like, this movie is high octane. It's popcorn eating film, I reckon. Like you sit there and you want to chomp away with the sound effects. That's the way I look at it.
I think it also has enough mind element to it, or philosophical element that you can also
totally
walk away with that. And I think Luke Sparks said it when he was on here. He said he wants people to have a conversation after the film.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the thing is, this film is one of those ones, and Occupation is actually, I think, a really good relative connection. So I'm glad you've just mentioned that. But it's like, to me, I reckon you can sit down with this film, and you said as well, like, second viewing, you could just go, I know what's about to happen. But there's enough entertainment, there's enough comedy, there's enough explosive moments, there's enough changing of what they show us. So, you know, that description I said at the start as a bit of a joke tonight, that there's a soldier going to battle, like you can get bored with that. That idea can get boring really quickly because in film we need as humans to kind of see something a bit visually different.
I think
like
especially after
everything's
Groundhog Day as well. As soon as she knows, this is a Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's called now.
Yeah.
It's a Groundhog Day movie.
Right. So in this, it's the exact same thing. Like, so in the first version, he goes through the motions and we're all like, holy shit, you know, these aliens and the poor bugger's been like, you know, he's been sort of, you know, Bill Paxton, everyone treating him as not the rank he should. So he's like, he's now been forced into the underdog position. He doesn't even know how to fire a gun and he's up against these massive aliens and the action is so fast paced that and I reckon that's a good trick of the filmmaking, that everything's moving so fast that as an audience, you know, like it's hard to take it all in. But they know, and the filmmaker knew this, you can't in film just rinse and repeat. So when he goes back the second time, everything changes.
Nice reference to its tagline.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like that live, die, repeat. You know, like so everything can't be the same. It has to change. So even when it repeats, it changes. And I do want to talk about it, and I'll come back to the narrative. So to me, this movie is extremely entertaining. Sit down, bag of popcorn, or whatever that gets you kind of your float boating, and pump the sound and just get ready for like a Tom Cruise roller coaster with aliens.
Yes.
But the great thing is, like, when you watch a narrative like this, and I'll talk about this in a few moments, but it's like there is a specific name for this narrative. Like, Groundhog Day is the great reference, but there's others that have done it since then. But when you watch that and it's done properly, this film does it properly. I was not bored, even on a second viewing, and I think you're exactly right. There's enough trickery in the aliens, and there's enough sort of thinking about what is going on. I remember the first time I watched this, I got a bit confused with the fact that he goes to the dam and then there's nothing at the dam. And so I remembered on this viewing straight away going, oh, the dam, right? Like it came up, like the fact that the alien's at the dam. And then when he gets to the dam, I'm like, oh, the alien's not at the dam. Like, so there's enough sort of trickery in the film. And what I mean by that is just movie magic, like keeping us interested and entertained, and that you don't notice what the film's actually doing. So you won't get bored on a second or even third viewing of this film.
No, I don't. I really don't think so.
And I think anyone into video games, like, it's kind of like you're almost just Tom Cruise in a video game. So give it a whirl. Why is this film a science fiction film? Sorry.
That's a great ponderance, because there are a lot of films where you wonder if that. I don't think anyone would dispute that this was.
No, but from a space brain perspective.
Well, the way I look at it is twofold. One is, does it explore some element of fictionalized science or some sort of extrapolation of science in as an integral part of its narrative? And the other way of looking at it is, if you pulled that out, would you be able to tell the same story? And this story is basically just a D-Day invasion. So Saving Private Ryan, or Inglourious Bastards, I guess, or
Dunkirk, the Christopher Nolan one.
The Dirty Dozen is almost this
1917
same movie where they come land on the beaches, and then they have the special elite corps that has to go behind and do something special. Yeah. Right. You could tell that movie, but in this one here, though, we've got this other element where the main character, his method of personal growth is through this time travel component, and the time travel component only works because you've got this special alien arrangement of the hive and so forth, and you can only explore the facets of this film or really tell a story by including those science fiction elements. This isn't just cops in space, which is a danger of. I've seen a number of like TV shows, they tend to die off in the first season because they're basically cops in space, and you sort of go, but this is just, you could just have it literally set in any city on Earth, take out the pew 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 guns, and it's saying like Alien Mine was an example of that. It was literally aliens arrived on Earth as refugees or something like that, and they had a drug problem, and then it was just a cop show. But there's like, instead of having racial minorities, they had these aliens. Yeah. And as a stand-in, but everything else was identical. They even had drug problems. Like, they didn't have a science fiction problem. Like, it wasn't like they had a time travel virus, which would very, randomly send people back in time, and then that would like cause future failures or something. Something really interesting. Wow, that's a good film. Let's do that one.
That's right. That one did.
But if you look at shows like Doctor Who, it's so popular and so long lasting. I don't think there's a Doctor Who episode where you could take the science fiction out and actually tell that same story. You wouldn't be able to do it. No. It's the same with the Star Trek ones. Like, some of them seemed kind of a little bit ordinary, and some of them seemed a bit more far fetched. But in every one of those, you take the science fiction out, and you can't just tell the same story.
Yeah, this
is the same.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because it's not so much about, because we've looked at films that they've really scienced the shit out of it. And then we've also looked at some films where the science is just implied. And in sci-fi, it's an interesting perspective that what makes this a sci-fi is the science. But yeah, straight away, that is the two sides of it. You can have a film where the science is ultimately totally explained, like Replicas, or The Beyond. versus then another film, even like this one, the science is not completely explained.
No.
We're not explained why he completely wakes up. It's a magic potion
It's something
pill.
to do with his blood.
Yeah, he got sprayed with alien blood, and then therefore he has this time loop going on because he's kind of connected into the aliens. So as an audience, do we believe that? I personally think we do. And the character does. And to me, that's always like a connection in sci-fi. Is like it doesn't really have to be explained to the audience. It's more about the character in the story believe in the science.
Yes.
So if the DeLorean travels back in time, it travels back in time. If the character can't kind of question it, well, we can't either.
No, exactly.
So,
and a lot of films and stories fall a bit flat when there's some sort of mismatch between these things, where something is mysterious, but then some apparently authoritative source provides some sort of explanation which isn't in the universe.
Correct.
It's sort of almost like it's breaking the fourth wall of believability. It's like everyone's happily playing within these set of boundaries, and then something tries to sort of, oh no, I'm going to be technical about it, but it's not technical within the same boundaries. And then it's just, you sort of get that moment where you cock your head a little bit and go, I don't
what they're saying.
Get it? Something doesn't know that. I don't see the connection here.
Yeah.
But as you said, this one here, if you get splattered and die in the blood of a blue alien, you become in a time loop.
It's the rule,
somehow. Which gets reset when you die.
Yeah.
Which and of course you lose that ability if you have a blood transfusion.
That's the rules of the game.
There's and you go, okay.
And also the alien will start hunting for you because it knows that you know too much.
Fortunately, nobody really, there's even Noah Taylor there, sitting there saying he's some quantum physics expert. Now he's a mechanic, which is a peculiar crossover, because I would suggest that a lot of quantum physics experts probably aren't especially good mechanics.
No.
They might, but probably not.
No.
There's no crossover.
No, there's no crossover.
Quantum mechanics has the word mechanic in it,
yeah.
but it's not the same sort of mechanics as
It's close enough in Hollywood,
mechanic.
sorry. It's close enough in Hollywood.
Even he sort of, I'm an expert in their biology, which you sort of go, how expert could you be considering how badly you're losing this war?
Yeah.
But anyway, he doesn't provide anything outside of the same scope of you're keyed into the central nervous system of the aliens, and you kind of go, that's he's an expert, and that's what he's told us that it is, so that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you start running around yelling that to people, you're going to be put in a loony bin. So
yes, fair enough.
Don't tell anyone else.
Well, that's a nice touch as well, because it's why didn't you tell everyone else? Because none of that makes any goddamn sense.
No, it doesn't.
Which gives them a little output there, because if you were trying to analyse this film as a hardcore scientist, you'd be going, none of this makes any damn sense. That guy's crazy.
You would document it and see what the side effects are, and then tell those documents to other scientists. So what about any science-related or science fiction-related stuff that you're up to, Surrey?
I'm getting back to trying to put that little short movie together.
Yep.
I've got a script for a short film experiment that Spacebrains will be doing.
Okay.
We'll see what that is. It's not a short film. It is a short video piece of entertainment.
Disappointing me. I was getting excited. I was taking my jacket off.
But, the other exciting thing I've been doing is I've been helping my wife set up to launch her business.
Ooh,
which has nothing to do with science fiction.
Hello.
Everything to do with skateboards.
Okay. Cool. Hoverboards.
If I could manage to get a hoverboard in there, then I'll do
There's
it.
so many jokes online about hoverboards, and then there's guys online that you can look them up. They have hoverboards now,
Yes,
they have versions of hoverboards.
They've got the superconducting magnets,
and all sorts of things,
fan jets, and all.
And then at the same time, there's the jokes of there's no hoverboards. It really isn't. Come on,
there's not. It's not. So what about you? You got some sci-fi stuff? You got a bit of film recognition?
Yeah, it's just the memory, which I've talked about many times, is about to come out online. having some awards, won some recognition that way, which is awesome. Harold, which I've talked about as well, Harold the Plumber, that's in the editing process. So yeah, in terms of film, not so much sci-fi, but in terms of film, things are ticking along in a pretty exciting way. And also our film festival, the Spacebrains Sci-Fi Film Festival is popping along.
It's a scintillating explosion of science fiction films. It's going to be amazing. It will knock your socks off or make you speechless.
Tom Cruise may or may not be there. Let's just say that.
That's a Tom Cruise laugh that I impression. You know, he goes, well, yeah, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, he does that little explosive.
I know, he does.
It's very effective. It's a little bit weird, but still very effective.
It's weird when you do it.
It is weird.
It's not as weird when he does it.
I'm not so spontaneous.
So he may or may not be there. Your old mate Blunto might be there. John Krasinski, who's got nothing to do with sci-fi, but, you know, Blunto's husband might be there. You know, these are just all mights and maybes and labeling them.
Bill Murray,
I mean, why should we label it? Why should we even label it? Sorry, I'm not even wanting to label this festival.
Look, you know.
But, you know, if you've got a science fiction film in the works, finish it.
Why not?
Submit it.
Yeah.
Go to Film Freeway, Spacebrains Sci-Fi Film Festival. We're accepting features and shorts, international, Australian, and also extremely localized to your bedroom.
And if I'm chosen, will it get screened anywhere? Will anyone see it?
It will. We're going to have judges decide on which of the best are. If we get hundreds of entries, we're going to have to narrow it down. But we'll have judges select the best of the best, and it will be on a big screen in a theatre with a couple of hundred people, red carpet event, you know, photographers, actors, people will be involved. It will be shown in the local media. It's going to be a one-off gala event, this festival.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
A little bit tapping back to the old days, I think.
I think so too. Mind you, it'll also be the 2023, which will be bigger and better.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that on next year's Space
Next
Brains.
year's Space Brains, yes.
So let's get stuck into a bit about the film. We mentioned Lemon or Lyman. I think I'm going to go Lyman. I'm going Lyman.
I like Lyman.
I like Lyman too. The screenplay was Christophermcquarrie and Jezbutterworth and his brother John Henry. I'm just going to presume that because they're both the Butterworth brothers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're partners. The Butterworths could hit me up. Let me know what's going on with their names. Are they known as
the Butterworth brothers now?
I mean, the Butterworth brothers. I mean, that itself is a film, right?
I guess.
It was based on the novel All You Need is Kill by Hiroshi Sakurasaka.
And Hiroshi, if you want to come and get in touch with us and correct us on
how I pronounce that,
our brutalization of your name, please feel free. We'd love to hear from you.
Good old Blunto, Surrey's mate, who I don't know personally, but Surrey knows. They went to college together, studied IT or something. She's in this, and Tom Cruise, Cruisey. We like a bit of Cruisey in a sci-fi, don't we?
Yeah, he does well in sci-fi.
Yeah, Oblivion is my number one on the ladder. Really, I think it's where you should start.
Where you start.
And there's other sci-fi that Tom Cruise has done. He just delivers, this man, doesn't he? I mean, I think he's so invested in the whole process is what I saw recently. He's doing Mission Impossible 19 or whatever, right? And I know he owns them and he owns the company.
Mission Impossible versus Rocky.
Yeah, something like that. But he got a bit pissed off because like a crew member had got COVID and they had to shut it down for a couple of weeks. And then it was implying that he had COVID. So, but this is what, I mean, this man is invested in his films. You know, he's not just rocking up to get the paychecks. He's invested. So I think when they sign up, there has been a lot of talk. Doug has talked about a sequel since this film came out, and it's been sort of on again, off again, on again, off again. They've gone through a couple of different screenwriters. He has mentioned that it would be like a prequel idea because it would be playing off the idea of this film going back in the battle, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Well, that sounds interesting.
So it'd be a sequel, but it'd be a prequel in the idea of how this film is set up, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then Emily Blunt's the last person, and Tom's been up for it for a couple of years, and then Emily Blunt has mentioned that it's going to be a bit hard for Tom, her, and Doug to be all available at the one time to make that sequel. So that could be sort of shutting the door on it if you read the Hollywood rags. This was filmed in London and the surrounding suburbs and the studio in London. Now, this is an interesting thing. I don't know what the exact budget was. They talk about on IMDb 178 million, but Warner Brothers apparently also spent $100 million on advertising.
So I don't know if very well.
I don't know if that means the budget was like $78 million and then it's $100 million. Because I don't think this film really cost $178 million. I think if it did,
I mean, Tom Cruise can charge a bit, but I don't think he charges that much.
No, he doesn't charge that much, and yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I'd love someone from Warner Brothers to come and explain that to me. But yeah, the rumors online is they spent $100 million. They did do the Live, Die, Repeat. That was actually the name of this film. And then it became The Edge of Tomorrow, but they kept marketing it as Live, Die, Repeat.
They were originally going to call it All You Need Is Kill, but then Doug, he said this kind of doesn't suit the tone of the film, which I agree. I mean, that's a very
All You Need Is Kill is a bit
bleak,
yeah,
it's a harsh, strong sounding thing, and this is not like that. It's a little bit more, actiony, rompy sort of thing.
It is.
And then he wanted to call it Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah.
And then that turned into the tagline.
Which is a great tagline. I mean, anyone that wants to be a writer, it's a great tagline, I think. Yeah.
And again, I think that was the right choice because that name, Live, Die, Repeat, that more sort of sounds like something Tarantino-y.
Yeah.
Not entirely mainstream, not entirely alternate, but Live, Die, Repeat sort of sounds a bit like it would be more of a cult movie. It has a cult movie title.
But look, in terms of taglines, what's a tagline? Sorry, I mean, it's supposed to summarize it in a word or two, right? Like, and so that summarizes this film.
As a tagline, that's fantastic.
He dies, and the same with her. She lives and she dies, and then it's rinse and repeat. So, to me, I think it's a great tagline for this film.
And they end up calling it, of course, Edge of Tomorrow, which is when they did their film premiere. It was 11:59. It started because that's obviously the Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes,
very. The box office returned a pretty healthy, doubled the money, I guess, if they spent 178 million. I don't know if that's real, but 370 mil it came back. They call this one of these ones as like a big blockbuster success story.
Well, there was a bit of a mediocre response from what they were hoping. Tom Cruise doesn't pull as much as he does in the States. They're hoping for more from overseas. They did okay. Like, I was reading the opening weekends, and it was solid. But there's 20 million for the first week on 23 million or something, as opposed to some of these other big films like 50 million, 40 million.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you imagine they spend if that's correct, they spent 178 million making the film.
Yeah,
100 million. Advertising the film, that's 278 or 280 million, and that's only $100 million profit after that huge investment. It's not a huge profit.
Well, is that the way it works? Because I don't know, this box office figure, is that a gross taking, which then obviously the cinemas get some cut of that, or is that the gross taking that the studio gets for its for the ticket sales, like it's cut of the ticket sales. I'm not
after
clear
tax.
On that.
I don't know. But
I think the accountants probably make sure we don't quite know whether which way it goes.
I think so. Yeah. Is it the gross after the cinema sort of takes their cut, or is it the gross as in including the whole, the whole process of the cinema taking 10%?
Yeah, I don't know how that accounting works.
I don't know either. Anyway, this is an action popcorn eating, turn up the volume kind of movie. So it's great on the big screen. It's great in front of maybe a few friends, few drinks, whatever that gets you float boating. I will warn you that whole idea of Groundhog Day can become annoying very quickly. I don't think it actually happens in this film. I think this film does some clever things.
It keeps it fresh.
I'm going to sort of stop the plot a couple of points and notice that. So we'll come to that in a minute. What you call this narrative is not Groundhog Day, Surrey. You call it a temporal frequency. Okay, so there's a temporal frequency narrative structure. That is the theory. Go look up Baldwin and Thompson and you will find out about this. And it's extremely uncommon, all right? So it's not common in filmmaking to use this kind of narrative. The most common, of course, is, ABC, 1, 2, 3, the 3-act structure.
Pixar.
Yeah.
Pixar masters.
Pretty much every other film out there. Yeah. There is some other variations. We have looked at a couple other films, but for this particular style, it's temporal frequency. The film that brought that in the mainstream is Groundhog Day. There is films before Groundhog's Day that does that, but Groundhog Day was a surprise comedy hit. Bill Murray, Raimi, I can't remember his name, Raimi, him and Bill had worked on Ghostbusters, Caddyshack together. They had an argument over actually Groundhog Day, but Raimi came up with this idea of a day that repeats and made it sort of funny, and it was just a smash hit. I believe it made about 150 mil.
So there are now other movies, Welcome to Palm Springs, is it?
Yep.
With that guy from Brooklyn Nine.
Oh, okay, yep.
Whatever. He, in fact, references, it's a Groundhog Day thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's that one Russian Doll, a TV show on Netflix.
They do, yeah, which is a great show, that one.
So Groundhog Day is now
it's the reference point,
in the universe of universes that have Groundhog Days.
Correct. There has been a whole bunch of movies over the years that have kind of taken that same idea, including Edge of Tomorrow. Happy Death Day is quite a big horror film that works with that. The girl wakes up and it's like the day she's going to be murdered, and the same sort of thing. Source Code, that's another sci-fi film. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah,
Jake Gyllenhaal, and he sort of wakes up and has to relive that day on the train or whatever.
There's another good one that's a little bit lesser known, Arc, yeah. It's on Netflix. That's quite a good one as well.
So we need to have a look at them, I think, at some point. But yeah, these are all films. I think what is always clever is when it's done in a different genre. So again, when I watched this particular film, Edge of Tomorrow, I hadn't seen it in this kind of, action battle scene idea of it being repeated, rinsed and repeated. I like the idea of Happy Death Day where it's like a horror film being rinsed and repeated, so you take that narrative concept and you throw it in with the mix of what we expect in a genre like sci-fi or horror, and suddenly it adds a new element to it. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, the opener of Edge of Tomorrow, in terms of its plot, we've seen this in a lot of sci-fi, haven't we? Sorry, like the idea is that you're sort of like newsreels, stock footage, B-roll, the world's gone to shit, alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, whatever the deal is. We've seen it before. This film works off this role. They intersperse footage of people scrambling, bombs going off, war. They have some clippings of Tom Cruise's character talking to the media.
Yeah, he ends up constantly bringing up the Angel of Verdun, and if she can kill hundreds of these things with minimal training, and then they keep hearing that same little with minimal training.
Yeah.
Well, to this, it's like it's a real. And then you're seeing the photos or the posters, the propaganda posters of the Angel of Verdun, the Full Metal bitch, and it starts going from that, as you said, the apocalypse style news clippings into sort of a D-Day prep. If you watch your World War II stuff, they have these posters and
the same sort of idea.
The news broadcasts about how just a couple brave men did something incredible,
Yeah.
And in this case, however, they chose a woman, which I think is probably a callback to the Japanese thing, that the Japanese love to have their warrior women.
Yes.
And then also the graphics used on her with her red stripes on her battle armor and that oversized sword. That doesn't get any more anime, any more Japanese sort of science fiction fantasy at all.
It's not explained in the film why she has that sword, but apparently in the book she has that because in the battle she ran out of ammo, and so she started using a sword. So, but it's not in the film. It's not
It looks like maybe it's like a helicopter blade type thing.
Something like that. Yeah, which is those things.
But it's just cool.
It's cool. It's cool. And the opening, I will say one thing film-wise with the opener is that some of that news footage is very distorted. So they keep kind of like cutting people off, or it goes to white ants, or it kind of distorts from one footage to another. So it's not exactly... It's giving you the impression that we're under siege, I guess. You know, we're not in happy times. We get information in this opening that in 2015, aliens called mimics arrived in Germany via an asteroid, and then they started to kind of just overtake continental Europe. And then by 2020, this United Defence Force had sort of militarized, ready to battle them, I suppose.
Any movie now that references what happens in 2020 is going to be spectacularly wrong.
Yes.
Unless it's a zombie apocalypse movie or something, in which case maybe they almost got it right.
Yeah. And they talk about that they have these special suits. Cage talks about these special...
Jackets, I think they call them.
Yeah, and they're kind of like very robotic and much bigger, and I liked this part of the...
And with minimal training.
With minimal training, you can operate them,
Can take down hundreds of these.
Yeah, and the whole point of that is then once Cage gets in there, he doesn't really know what the hell how to use it.
In fact, we see also his comrades who apparently have had training don't really fare any better either.
No.
In fact, people have just been wiped out left, right, and centre.
No.
And then you see the mimics in action on the beach, and you go, well, that's kind of why they're crazy.
Yes. So within here, Cage, played by Cruise, speaks with the news about the enemy and the suits, and he does introduce Emily Blunt's character, this Sergeant Rita Vrakatsky.
Yeah, I wonder why they... It's funny because she's...
It's a funny name, isn't it?
Very much British.
Yeah.
And the name of the actor Emily Blunt is a very British name.
It is. Well, you know
Why
her
they went
well.
for Rita Vrataski?
I don't know.
And then she's tremendously British, and you kind of go, wouldn't it have been better calling her Elizabeth or something?
Yeah, Elizabeth Smith.
Yeah, I know. Elizabeth Townsend or something, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what they went for. They're planning this massive invasion of France, which there is these strong connections to the real world, like D-Day. And then there's also these connection to these war movies, I think,
even that
Jacket.
red moving across the map, from Munich is where it landed, so from Germany. And because this is what happened in World War II, of course, it's spread out, and then they're planning a big national invasion on the beaches of France.
Yeah, so it's D-Day.
I mean, fortunately, they were self-aware enough that the general, Gleason's character, does mention D-Day.
Yes.
And they have the scene in the British pub, so it's not like it's totally lost on them.
No, but there is a play off, because even in that opening beginning, I don't know if you quite picked it, they don't say the mimics and the alien. They don't actually say they're aliens. They talk about it's a war, it's a terrorism war, it's a war against us. You can tell that it's bigger than just Germans.
Yes.
But it's this sort of implied bigger cycle than just, another part of us in the human race, But there isn't a mention to aliens.
War.
Yeah, yeah. And Brendan Gleeson plays that general really well. He's a great, I think he's Scottish, I think.
Yeah, he's
Scottish.
Mad Eye Moody. That's what I know him from Mad Eye Moody and Gangs in New York.
It's a good one because it's one of these things, and a lot of sci-fi films have to do this. You and I talk about writing the story up, voiceover. In this context, it's instead of voiceover, it's actually like newsreels, quick B-roll, quick action bits, quick interspersed. You bring in the main characters, they're talking a little bit. What's the writer doing? Exposition. Setting up the film. Setting up the setting.
And using a recognised trope for it.
Yeah.
Like, by now, we do... this idea goes back so long to the old spinning newspaper. The newspaper would spin down and land with a headline,
Yeah.
Strange man flies from Krypton.
Aliens in Germany.
Aliens discovered,
Well, even war, right? Like D-Day in France.
Yes.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, from D-Day on France.
Thousands of troops prepare to battle.
God knows why they all spoke like this, but they did.
They did. But yeah, many sci-fi films do start in this way, especially online. I think it's very trendy to have this sort of idea of distorted newsreels and blurry footage and handheld footage.
I mean, it is the equivalent of having, as I said, a spin newspaper or text or a voiceover, except it's kind of a little bit more visually interesting.
Yeah.
It fits in with the story. Let's them introduce some of the world building.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more integrated, but it's familiar enough. Like anyone who's watched a few, apocalyptic world type movies
that's right.
will recognize this, and we'll just go, oh, this is them catching me up, getting me up to speed to the point where we are starting the story. And it's nice because it doesn't hit you in the head with like white text or a voiceover from a dramatic older actor, in the age of Avalon. I was really wrong. But yeah, so it's quite good. And we get straight through though now to the helicopter ride with Cage coming in, don't we?
Yeah, and he arrives in London.
Straight in.
He's asleep. He wakes up as it lands. And it's not really London, probably as we know it today. It's London as in he's landing in the middle of, I don't know.
And this is, of course, just the...
near Big Ben, somewhere
the
there.
mirror of the ending, which is nice.
Yeah.
Which is that beautiful setup, which always leaves you with that sort of creamy, buttery taste in your mouth when you finish the movie. And he goes in to talk with the general.
He does. And what happens with the general?
He goes and talks to the general. The general sort of says, it occurs to me that we're going to be, sending millions of men in to fight this battle. And when we win in any way this turns out, we're going to have body bags coming back. And when the body bags start coming back, people like to see, someone to blame.
They do.
And,
they like to blame someone.
And they're probably going to blame me. And so Tommy Cage, Mr. Cage... Billy Cage. What was his first name? Bill Cage or William Cage? Yes. William Cage. Bill Cage. He then says, let's see, I would suggest a memoir and a documentary and how you rose through the ranks of rags to riches story and all the rest of it.
But Gleason doesn't like this. He's like, no, you go over with the camera crew, you film it, on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, I don't much care about what they think about me.
Yeah. So, and Tommy's not happy about this.
Oh, no, doesn't his face go white and he starts doing that, shifting his eyeballs around. And
he explains to us that, when the aliens invaded, he was a PR dude, a bit like me, and it's like, his business collapsed and as the war broke out and he joined the American military to kind of like,
It was in the ROTC. Was that the...
Yeah.
I assume that's some kind of US reserves type thing, but because he was at university, it sort of gives you a reserves military rank, like an officer rank, because you don't become a major in the US military by owning an advertising firm.
No.
So maybe a US ROTC member could explain how ranks might possibly transfer, but I'm assuming because he's at uni, because like, for example, my friend, he went to the Australian Defence Force Academy, Duntroon, in Canberra,
right.
And it's basically a university that's an officers' college. So you go to university there, and even the cadets there are officers.
Yes.
Which means they actually outrank, the privates in the Australian Army, and they eat at our officers' mess, and when they visit, bases and so forth, they get saluted. Like these 18-year-olds who are university students get saluted by the lowest ranks, I must say, of the armed forces. So maybe similar thing here, because he graduated with an officer's rank.
Yeah. Well, and I think the whole point there is that he's not really done the work. He's
I think he's come from uni,
built himself up into that
as
role.
A reservist.
Yeah.
Who's I'm sure he's run around in the fields a little bit and played paintball,
but he hasn't seen real action.
But he's not really done anything.
No. Doesn't even know how to fire the weapon. So anyway, they have this standoff and it kind of results in him thinking that he's got the upper hand on the general, but then the general because he threatens the general, the general dismisses him, but then gets him arrested. And so
Just
then
as arrest this man. You're like,
yeah,
"What?"
yeah. So he's like, what? But anyway, so then he wakes up at Heathrow, knocked out. He's woken up at Heathrow.
On your feet, maggot.
Yeah, and he's straight away addressed, and this is where we get great Bill Paxton entering and addressing him just as a deserter.
Yeah,
and,
deserter, a
and
con
he's
man.
not a captain, and
He's
he
gonna-
tries to again pull the strings that no, he's higher up, and as you were just explaining, like he should be saluted and he should be respected, but no, he's got this story that no, he's not. He's a deserter. He would do anything to get out.
Yes, in fact, the orders say that he is impersonating an officer, and the first thing he's going to try and do is try to tell you that he's an officer.
Yeah.
And so that's the orders that. So this drill sergeant is just like, I know everything about you. I have the full confidence that I have the entire force of military law behind me.
Correct.
So anything you have to say, I do, will have no effect on me. There is no threat you could make. There's none of this, well, you just wait till the general hears about this and do you want to take that risk?
These orders are from the general,
And he is totally covered because he has those orders, which basically say, this is what you must believe. And they tell you to not believe what he says.
Yeah.
And
Anything
so
he says is bullshit,
So as a result, he's just got this unshakable resolve to take this con man Cage and introduce him to J Company.
And I guess that's the thing with Cage, like his one strength is kind of not being a con man, but being like, the word of the mouth. And
A schmoozer.
A schmoozer, yeah. So that they've taken away any power that he actually has completely. So yeah, he comes into this J squad. These guys are the typical ragtag kind of group. There's a fat guy, there's a black guy, there's an Australian guy,
There's a rough
there's a woman. Yeah, they're gambling. They're not quite like, you think, geez, these guys are going in to protect planet Earth, But as we've been told, like, anyone with any experience can take on the aliens, with our super jacket things, so you've got faith in the system. The whole time he's trying to, disengage or argue with it, and he's knocked back. None of them like him because he's introduced as a deserter, and very quickly they're off for war.
Well, you do get that nice foreshadowing there, which I like, where he's making them eat the cards. And he says, and what do I say about this? And he says, your destiny is entirely in your hands. You do what, you make of yourself what you will type of thing.
Theme stated.
Which is theme stated, and it's repeated a couple more times through the film, which is nice. And I remember when I watched this the first time, like I can't entirely remember the full experience, but I do remember not paying particular attention to that. It's just like, it's this, because he's been, repeating these kind of
cliche statements,
grandiose things about armed
Military.
combat is the great leveler. You can make a man of yourself here. You can do whatever you want. Blah 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 blah. And so it just sort of goes through. I had no clue what was coming because
which is also foreshadowing, right? Because he does say to him, "Battle does do that," and eventually that's what happens to old Cagey.
And it's nice because he has this rambling thing, the same as Dark City, where that a landlord fellow had his things like saying 30-day years here, no days off for bad behavior or whatever it was. It makes a really noticeable statement so that when you come around the second time, it's really obvious what he's going to say and how he says it, and that it is a repeat.
It is. It's setting us up to know that that's that character, and he's going to always keep saying that, So that's good. Anyway, they're in these suits. They're flying over to France, and they're heading that way, and the floor opens up, and they're all sort of like hovering there, aren't they? And Bill Paxton gives them a big sort of speech about go out and get them and blah blah blah.
And partway through, there's an explosion.
Whole time, Cagey's saying, "I don't even know how to fire my gun. How do you shoot it?
How do we get the safety off?"
And they're like, "No one's out there to help you." And that other guy, one of the other guys in the group, says, "Hey, there's a dead man in your suit," because that's a line. And but then Paxton's like, once this plane's on fire, he's like, get out, evacuate. So they all get out. They get on the beach. Chubby gets just annihilated straight away.
Quite humorously,
yeah,
of course.
quite humorously. Like there's a ship that falls out of the sky.
We made it splat. Yeah, good.
And likewise, there's this opening bit is kind of a 5 to 7 minute, really brutal, very similar to Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Handheld camera on the beach, following crews. People are being squished and blown apart and
you're not
shot.
even seeing the enemy yet.
And you haven't, you've just seen explosions, and all the ships they came across on all these planes seem to be being hit and falling from the sky. And he is just scrambling for his life. He's not even looking to attack, is he? He's just trying to kind of live in the moment. And
he dodges a falling, crashing craft, which then outwalks the Angel of Verdun.
Yes, she walks out, and they're all like dragging their soul. They're all like tough looking.
Tough.
Yeah,
and it's funny because at first, she has this good fight with one of the monsters, and then she gets just hammered and slammed to the side and dies.
Yes.
And so there's like this whole build-up of her being this Angel of Verdun. She's amazing. She killed hundreds of them. And you first see her fighting and you're going, she's amazing.
She's cool.
She's clearly very good. And then she just gets smashed and dies. And old Cage just sees that.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of hurts him a little inside.
Yeah.
He goes, I thought that this was going to be okay.
Yeah, she would be the saviour.
And he manages to catch up with his troop in a little pit. And they're talking, they're so far off, they'll be here in so long, and Cage is in there still trying to get the safety off his gun because he sees something boiling up through the sand. He goes, "Hey guys!" And they turn around. Alien bursts out, starts slaughtering people. Another alien jumps in. Cage finally manages to get the safety off his gun and shoots and destroys the alien. A blue alien comes in with and roars. Like it acts differently. It looks different. It's bigger. The other ones are these sort of
bit like a tiger or something,
spinning
right? Like,
orange, fiery looking things, and this one's obviously blue.
Yeah, it's a bit like a tiger. It's got a mouth.
A more noticeably, animal monstrous-y sort of face.
Yeah. And it turns to attack him, and he manages to blow it up.
Yeah, he gets that claymore grenade off Wicks or whatever his name is. Which is, I don't think anyone would ever do that, because he actually put it facing towards himself, like a suicide bomb. Yeah. And he sets it off, and we see him get coated in blood, and he goes, and
dies. Yeah.
And
so that's the end of the movie.
Credits roll.
That's it, done. Tom Cruise dies, that's it, done. But no, he wakes up back in Heathrow.
Wait, there's more.
What the hell? And he's confused, on your feet maggots, and he starts to see the whole day replayed, basically. And it's exactly what you were talking about. We have those cliche lines from Farrell. We have him meeting J Squad. The same things are going on.
Quickly
it does jump through it a lot quicker, but
bit by bit.
It notices all those major milestones, right? Like all those key bits. And the whole time he's confused and not sure what's going on and looking at everything and not really too sure.
And on the beach this time, when he finds Rita, he saves her, I think, that last moment. On the last thing that got her. And he sort of knocks her aside so she misses it.
Yeah, and he gets
And
whacked.
rather than thanking him, she pulls his battery pack out, sticks it in her own suit, and he goes, you took my battery, and he can't move, and an alien smushes him. Yeah. Which is... Then he wakes up again. So we definitely know, okay, he's definitely, this is like not a one-time deal. No,
and he wakes up again, and then that time he does save her again.
Yeah, but this time...
And she says, come and find me.
Yeah, because he's clearly anticipating the aliens. He just moves his hand to the side, shoots, hand over here, shoots. He does this, because he's died a few times at this point. This is not like just the second time he's died. No. This is numerous times. He's sort of trying it on his own.
And that's the thing I like with how this film did it, and we'll come to it later in the plot, but they really do jump that. Like they don't necessarily, I think with Groundhog's Day, if I remember, it's like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas this is like almost like day 1, day 2, day 8.
Yeah.
So he's actually now done it a few times.
You've got the idea.
And you've got the premise.
Well, the Groundhog Day thing is well established. Like, we know that's what's happening.
Yes.
And so it just shows the key points of he's here on the beach. And this time he tells the guys about the alien coming through first. Yeah. But it doesn't help. And this time. Yeah. And then finally, he just like.
So they've sped up that
casually
narrative.
just shoots all the aliens. For Rita, and Rita goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, we've got to get off this beach. You know, like there's no way. I've tried it. I can't do it myself. Yeah, I need you to get me off this beach."
Yeah. So it's a clever narrative, isn't it? Because it's jump in. Here's the rules of the game, and then you know what, bugger it. Like, we're not going to show the first 10 days. Let's jump to day 12.
Yeah, straight in there.
So let's just keep going quicker. And I really liked that. I liked how quickly it speeds it up, and it's also not then revealing to us, the audience, all those days. So we don't really know what he's gone through. We can just tell he's progressing.
He's
he's
clearly
kind of becoming
more confident, a bit better.
Yeah, he's becoming more clever and more, and then it's like a different challenge, isn't he? He wakes up in one of the loops after, as we just said, like she said, come and find me, and he has to go find her earlier in the day. And this is where you said that the joke is, you know, like he has to roll off the truck in front of the truck, under the truck. And so he kind of gets to the point, he deliberately abuses the drill sergeant, make him do 50 push-ups, and he's like, and he goes and he gets squished.
Oh, yeah. And the noise, you hear you know, something, and it's squish.
And it's also clever because...
how would a man do that?
Because then it cuts and he's doing the same things. He's doing the push-ups and the truck's going, he's like... you know, like it. And I really liked that because it's like, there's a joke. And they do that a couple of times in this film, even on the battle scene, where he's kind of like, he jumps down, he like squishes an alien, and then I think another one annihilates him. And then it's like, so he jumps down and he like annihilates someone, and he annihilates someone, and then a truck runs him over. And he's like, you know, so it's like, there's little bit of humor even in such a violent, you know, realistic way. But he finds her, and she is... I really like this, and I'm sure Emily Blunt liked this. The way the director has shot this, we come across this physically strong woman who is just beautifully lit. I mean, she is a beautiful woman, Emily Blunt, but the way they shoot her, she's doing some sort of yoga pose in this machine battle. These things are whizzing around her, trying to mimic the mimics. Yeah. But she is shot magically in this, like silhouette. There's a lovely shot of her here that he comes across her, and she's all bendy and posing in a yoga position, but she's not just, it's not sexual, but it's like she is, I found it like really hypnotizing the way they had posed her and positioned her.
It was like an animal or something.
Yeah, it was a bit like that, like a bit alien. Like, yeah, she was a bit alien, you know. And isn't it interesting that he's kind of come in there, you know, escaping from the thing, and all those other soldiers, her soldiers, they kind of like are closing in more and more on him, you know. So it's kind of giving us the impression that, like, we're not just going to let anyone come up on this woman, you know, like, who are you to be here? And I liked that. It added pressure. But I loved the way they shot her. I think she would have too, because it was a very interesting... We'd already been introduced to her, full metal bitch, on the battlefield. She steals his pack, you know. She's not an absolutely nice hero person. He saved her, and now he has to introduce himself in a different way. And so that was kind of clever, I thought. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Anyway, he comes in, he tells her about the battle, she believes him, and she says, well, you got to come with me to Dr. Carter, played by Australian Noah Taylor. And he's an expert, which I do like always. I'm an expert in mimic biology. Really? How long have they been on the planet and you're an expert? You know, but anyway, that's fine. It's fine. I forgive it. Sorry, I forgive it. He does give a good presentation. Even Tommy Cruise says that's a bloody good presentation. Yeah, I know. I liked that.
He's a marketing guy. He's going, oh, nice slides.
Yeah, this is really good. Take this to the top.
That's a good PowerPoint.
Yeah, this is a great PowerPoint, man. I didn't think it would be that good. You know what? This is really good. Let's go. Let's go to the general, you know. And isn't it great that the writer is setting the rules of the game, that because she just says, I've gone to the general and I've been locked up.
Yeah, locked up and dissected.
And dissected. And he's like, no, but that's really good. He's like, dissected. He's like, yeah, because that's probably what would happen. So it's great that they're setting the rules of the game.
Well, yeah, I have a feeling that general is acting as the representation of the desperation of the military complex, where they've just basically said, okay, forget about, because now it's just
bomb the shit out of it.
Herd everyone in there. We need millions of people in these suits. I don't care if you're a misfit. I don't care if you go to battle naked. Yeah, do whatever. Get him in there.
We just need numbers.
And so if you come in with some crazy ass story, he's going to go, you're just trying to get out of this.
Yeah,
you're nut. Yeah, and if you're really dead set on saying that this is the truth, then you're obviously crazy.
Yeah, go to the nut house. Cut him up. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
So we go through and we hear that there's a superorganism. We learn, as I said, the rules of the game regarding the blue alphas, and you get their blood somehow on or in you, and that means that you're now
connected to their nervous system or something.
You're the panic button for the reset.
Yeah.
So when you die, then it resets back. It's unclear as to why it's that morning it resets to.
Yeah.
But it does.
It does. Well, I think it's supposed to be before the battle, so the battle replays itself. So he got sprayed on the battle.
Yeah, it must have coincided. It must have coincided with when the aliens were getting ready.
Yeah, something
for
like
the battle as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
something like that. It's not terribly important.
Anyway, it's the rules of the game.
Yeah,
and she confesses that the reason why she is the Angel of Adan is the same thing happened to her.
Yes.
And so that's what made her the Angel of Adan, is because she just kept living the battle over and over.
She was chasing down the Omega.
Yeah.
But what happened? She got injured.
Yep.
But not badly enough. She got incapacitated, and she woke up in a medical hospital. And had done a blood transfusion. And that was it. She knew she had lost her power.
She had. So, yeah, they don't. And this is where, as I said, like, Cage is like, well, come on, this is a great presentation to tell the general, but no, we're going to be locked up. And so it's not quite working. So then the plan is we've got to get off the beach. So they start training, and he starts training in this location where she was training. And again, it's great storytelling because we're not getting him to wake up again at Heathrow. He's already here. He's already done that introduction over time. Yeah, so there's a training montage.
Every scene ends with him being shot in the head.
Yeah, which I think probably connects to the whole point of the story of, it's the Japanese story.
Yeah, all you need is kill.
Yeah, because in this montage, he dies time after time after time.
You can see he's getting tired of it too.
Yeah, and he does.
There's a couple of ones where he's broken his leg and he's going, no, I'm all right.
I'm okay. And she just comes up and annihilates. Boom. And you know what's great, because I noticed it on this viewing, is that this montage, he dies, and then in pretty much the next series of montage, she's the one dying. So it's like they take turns.
Yes.
After a particular frustrating lesson, which is this is the midpoint of the movie, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a good sort of break. One of the days, he's like, now stuff this. And that's what happens in Groundhog Days. Oh, he goes, stuff this.
Yeah,
So it's a point in this type of story that you go, do you know what? I've lived this day enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to live it. I'm going to just do something else. Because when you think about it, you could just do something. If he can roll and, escape the drill sergeant, he could roll and just run away.
And this scene here is more than just him going, oh, I need a
day off.
Let's get a bit of perspective. Because we see this beautifully. We get reminded of what the stakes are, because maybe he's forgetting as well. And as us, the audience, we're kind of going, this is a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
what's the point?
Does he really have to win this?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, surely the blue alpha, you could tell more people about it and then try to get more people blue alpha'd and watch it. But he goes along to this pub and he sits down and has a beer, and then there's he has here's the Brits talking about bad-mouthing things and saying how they'd be great. And he said, yeah, I was there, I died in my set. And they said, coward.
Yeah.
It was like, really? What are you doing? You're in a pub getting drunk. Jesus Christ. And then he hears the noises
Your grandpa
outside.
did it, yeah.
And so he goes out onto the Thames, of course, because it's how you know he's in London. It's like London apparently is just the Thames.
That's all it is.
And the Tower Bridge, Westminster.
It's
Big
like
Ben.
Australia's just the Sydney Harbour. That's all it is.
Sydney Opera House and the coat hanger.
Yeah.
And he looks down along the river, and of course, aliens have come roaring up and they're just smashing through the city.
Yeah.
And so okay, so if he doesn't go and get off that beach and like try and achieve his objective, that's it. That's the end of it. Because that was their big push. That was their D-Day. That was their Normandy. That was all of their troops with all of their firepower and everything they could muster was going.
So if they lose, then the rest of the world is. Yeah.
And they're going to lose because the aliens have been repeating that day. How many times have they repeated that battle before Tom Cruise got blue blood on him?
Yes.
Because we only see that one. That they clearly have repeated it before them because they knew they were coming.
Yes.
The only way they could have known they were coming is if they had arrived and maybe gotten a little bit more successful than before. And then he goes, oh, okay, let's just get some troops in there.
Yep.
So clearly that wasn't the first time. But that's the last effort that humans have. And that's what I loved about this. And this is why I realized that I didn't mind watching this the second time. Because here I was watching this and yet I'm thinking about why are they doing this? Why
What's
am I
their
being shown
motivation?
this?
Yeah.
What's the point of this scene? Or why does Cage do these things? And I was trying to remember because it's a while ago I saw this. And then I saw this scene where he takes a bit of a breather and London is being destroyed and he dies very quickly. He's standing on the bridge there and an alien overtakes him. And so you end up realizing, okay, so that's the midpoint of the film. Now we have seen how much effort he's going to have to go through. Why?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yes.
And so he comes back and he's determined again. He's going, okay, no, I have
new
to do
plan.
This. I've seen what happens if I don't go ahead with it, and it is unacceptable.
Yes. So there's a nice montage here, and they start. He says there's no way to. Sorry, the vision he then sees after that as well, which helps, is that he sees where the Omega is hiding, which is in this German dam.
Oh, isn't that just Dam Busters? What was these other, the Guns of Navarone, all of these other World War II movies where they always have to go into like a dam.
A dam, yeah.
There's always some dam or other which feeds the power to somewhere, which is where the anti-aircraft gun batteries are, and there's always a battle at a dam. So it's very cool, this one. But he doesn't just. Clearly, there's a few more repeats to find this dam, and then well, there's the montage of her dying. Then, so there's kind of like he comes back empowered, and then she's like, "We've got to get off this beach," but they have this whole montage of him saying, "Go left, go right," and then 12 o'clock, and you have to be specific.
You have to be specific, and they're communicating, and he's every time, and this is the thing, like we've come from that montage before that British invasion of him dying, time out, like her killing him, to then he keeps seeing her dead on the beach. So yes, they get over one hill and then she gets annihilated, and then he gets over the next, she gets over the next hill and she gets annihilated, and the helicopter falls out of the sky, and so she can't get off the beach, and that's what they're kind of at a point where they're quite frustrated about. They can't get off the beach. And I guess that's what the aliens were doing, right? Like you just said, what were the aliens doing before that? Every advancement the humans made might have pushed them back, but then they got to reset the day and say, oh, well, they come this way, so then attack them that way. And that doesn't quite work, so we got to come this way. And tomorrow we'll come back and we'll send everything to there, but then finally there's a point where they do get off the beach.
Yeah, so they sort of managed to get over the last
June, yeah. And then they're there and there's like a campgrounds. And he says to her, we've got to get a car and get the hell out of here. You go for the caravan, but disconnect the caravan.
Well, she said, geez, it looks quiet. He says, yeah, until they ambush us down there.
Yeah.
And he said, which ones have we tried? Well, we've tried the thing, the minivan, the green SUV, and stuff like. The best one is the caravan. Make sure you disconnect the caravan.
Yeah.
Got to remember that it's just dead weight.
Yes. And, of course, it's a great setup, isn't it? Because she gets that and she gets rolling. He gets, what does he get? He gets some other supply.
Well, he's distraction. So he's
that's
setting off the green SUV so that they come for him.
Yeah.
So she gets a chance to get away.
That's right. And then she, of course, and then he hops into the car and she hasn't disconnected the caravan.
No.
So they go fanging it through this caravan park, this old derelict caravan park. The aliens start popping up and she's towing this caravan and there's one in the back suddenly and has to fire it and blow the car apart and blow the camper van apart to get rid of it. And they do. They succeed.
Yeah.
And they get out on the opening road. Once they're on the opening road, this is where, again, it's going back to earlier in the film. To me, there's a nice time jump because we haven't felt like they've gotten off the beach so much, even though he implied it. But here he starts talking to her and revealing stuff, and she's denying what he's revealing.
Yeah, I was thinking he's probing, and your middle name is Catalan.
Yeah.
And you didn't find you're looking for your brother, and you end up finding him there, and he says, no, that's not true.
She keeps denying, but I think the thing was on this viewing for me, it was like, no, he's already done this. Yes,
exactly. He's probing for her middle name.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably just gone, yeah, so have you ever been here? No. You always end up talking to me and you tell me this story.
But it's clever, right? Because it's kind of like when you do think about it, you're like, oh, so how many times has he already lived this? He's already lived it more than us.
He's getting bored here on the same thing, so he's trying to progress it to the next bit, learn that bit more information.
Yeah, which I quite like. Anyway, they get to this kind of the car runs out of petrol. They get to this farmhouse, and there's kind of this is where it's a little bit, I guess, the romance scene. That he's revealing that he likes her a bit more than she likes maybe him. She's more just mission focused.
She's just met him.
Yeah.
Known him for about a day and a half.
Yeah, whereas he's not. But again, unlike Groundhog's Day, where it feels like there's a relationship, he's kind of had the relationship, but we as the audience haven't quite had it either. We're a bit more on her side.
Yeah.
It's a bit newer to us.
Where he has the coffee.
Yeah.
And then 3 sugars.
Yeah.
And she's like, hang on. Where are the keys?
You've been here. You know more.
How come you know so much? And I'm sort of thinking, they've already, slept with each other, as it were, at some point. No, it's actually, he's already found the keys, and
yes,
he explains that they can't leave here.
Yeah,
they should just wait for the day or take the car or whatever. And she says, no, we got to fly. He says, every time you get up in that helicopter, you die. And she's upset because he's found that chink in her armor. He's learnt more about her. She's at disadvantage.
Yeah.
And it's reminding her of a relationship, the same relationship I think she had with someone when she was at Verdun, which is, I can't remember the guy's name. And
Harvey, I think. Harvey.
Yeah, it doesn't really go into too much what happened, except you get the idea. She was having the same thing where she basically kept spending so much time so intimately with this guy, and then of course he died and she got out of the loop, so had lost her opportunity. And so she's frustrated, going, oh no, he's going to fall into the same trap. So I'm just going to have to get him out of that. That was my thinking of why then she went, because logically she should have gone, oh okay, well let's come up with a plan of how to get either a helicopter or get out of here. But no, she goes for the helicopter, trashed, killed. And he ends up dying too, doesn't he? Which is why we get to the one where his flash through is in his suit again in the helicopter, and he's drunk.
Yeah,
and he's why are you drunk? And it's like, hey, Cage, there's a dead guy in my suit. It finishes that, and the person goes, oh, okay, and then the whole, he preempts someone else as well, and they're also looking a little bit creepy-eyed. And but he goes down now. Now he does the whole beach thing without her.
Yes, he just goes and does the whole mission,
the whole thing, and gets the helicopter and flies because he knows where this. I was going to say Verdun is this hydro power station. I can't say the word dam. A big concrete wall with a river behind it. What's that thing you dig food with? A spoon. So he flies off to this dam, which again it looks just like a setup to a World War II movie. That coloration, that dawn sort of bluish light flies in and lands, and he sneaks in, because it seems behind the major front line, there's not like just aliens just wandering about. Like in World War II movies, there were German soldiers or just local people, civilians wandering about doing their thing, living or surviving
or helping the soldiers, right?
Or doing whatever, So, but this is just, these things just seem to bury themselves and wait.
Yes.
And so he's creeping through, and he creeps up, and he gets to that part where you can see the light, and that's his vision showed that Omega was down there. And he walks up and he looks down, and it's not there.
It's empty.
And so he backs off a bit, confused. And I remember, this is that thing, and you feel confused yourself. You sort of go, and of course, when you really think, when you go, it is a little bit soon to have the ending. But it could have still been there, and then had something else happen. But no, it's some sort of an ambush. And one monster jumps at one side, and then an alpha comes from the other side, and he immediately pulls a gun, tries to shoot himself in the head. Like, it's just this reflexive suicide, which is a frightening concept. I wonder if he gets over that reaction instinct. Something's bad is going on. I'm just going to shoot myself. But the alien knocks the gun aside, and it just grazes him, and he falls down. There's a pool of blood, and the alien looks at it, and he goes, the alien's trying to bleed me out. Because I think the implication being that if he dies with enough blood in him, then he repeats. But if he gets enough of the blood out of him, I assume it's got alien gizmos in him. Then and so then
he'll just die, and then the alien's in control again, right?
And so then there's this rather vicious sort of escape thing where the alien's trying to grab him and get him, and it smashes through the pipes, and water starts filling up. And what a horrible way to die, drowning. But it works. He wakes up, and this time when he goes and tells them, he reveals that he reveals that it's not there. It was a trap. Maybe Verdun was a trap as well. And they keep picking up this object that old Doc Strange, whatever his name is, Noah Taylor's character had been hanging on to before. And they reveal that this was a copy of a prototype that was supposed to key into an alpha's blood and reveal the location of the Omega, but it's been taken, and conveniently enough, it's in,
it's back in the Ministry of Defense, the General's office,
which is it's a convenient way of reducing the number of locations that you have to film to. But it also
smaller budget.
It also allows you to follow with the theme of looping back to his previous encounter. And so now we get this looping. So now they're not trying to get off the beach. Now they're trying to get into the office. And we finally do see that. We see a couple failures. But then we do see the one where they finally go in, they count 1, 2, 3, they duck to the side, come out, turn around.
It's a little bit more like a spy film in that bit, right? It's take 3 steps, turn to the right. Take 3 steps, turn to the left.
Counts out how long.
Walk behind, hide in the elevator. And then he's in the General's office. And even with the General, then he's saying, you're going to get a phone call from your buddy. Just tell him that it's okay. Tell him he forgot so-and-so. And he gets the phone rings, and so he talks, and he puts it down, and then he goes, your secretary, just tell her that, you forgot about the fuel loads. And then she walks in, and he kind of talks. So he's being very, very certain. The General's confused the whole time. And Blunto is kind of like, we should get out of here. It's not really working. And he goes, I've never gotten this far in the conversation.
He says, I've never got this far. And then he says, what I'm going to say is going to sound crazy. And he basically springs a thing that says,
explains it to him.
Get that thing out and give it to me. It's going to work. And so the General kind of goes and gets it out and goes, well, why should I do this? This is, why not? Type of thing, And so the General gives it to him. And then he looks surprised because he's like,
never gotten this before.
Okay, so now what do we do? How do we get out? I don't know. So we're now seeing the one where he's like, no freaking clue. And so they kind of walk out of the office, but the General's pulled the same deal as before, as arresting him. This time there's guns to arrest them. And so Rita whips out her pistol and shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's quite... She's very quick to pull that gun on him.
Yes.
But I guess the thing is, it's if you don't get that chance...
Yeah.
Like,
What's the
if
point?
you take him hostage, how long until he dies then? Like, maybe
That's
he
right,
won't
yeah.
die. Maybe it's too risky. And then, so we get the next one where they get it, and this time they've gone out into the garage and they're driving some car around.
Speed out of the garage.
But to tell you the truth, I'm surprised, though, that he didn't... he jabs it in his leg and goes, it's in the Louvre in the underground parking. Why did she not then just immediately shoot him in the head?
Yeah.
Like, because then you go, okay, bang. Because we're trying to get, we're doing this escape thing. Like, what if you did escape?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? Like, you're being chased. It's like,
And doesn't it also give you, like, then longer? Because if you then wake up the next day, you now know we don't have to go back to this place.
yeah, you've
We
done
just
that.
now focus on the Louvre.
But maybe that's not quite so easy to think of at the
Yeah,
time.
that's-
So they have a bit of a car crash.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're attacked by those soldiers, aren't they?
yeah, they get stopped, and
Yeah.
old Cage gets taken to the hospital.
When he wakes
Where
up,
he wakes
she's got
up,
the blood
Got
transfusion
the
going.
blood transfusion, and then you go, oh no, okay.
He's lost his power.
And that's important, of course, because it wouldn't be a very interesting movie, I suppose, if he kept that power all the way up.
No, and you know what?
Spamming all the way up until final death of
This
the
kind
monster.
of movie, that's exactly what happens. They've got to get to that point in the climax where they lose their power.
Yes.
They just lose their power because otherwise they haven't learnt anything.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And then so in this context, it's a blood transfusion.
It's a beautiful thing that they did that where, Rita turns up and is about to stab him and goes, no, I don't have it anymore. And she sees the blood transfusion.
Yeah.
And the realization that, okay, now things are going to get difficult.
Yes.
Because we don't have much time.
Remake, yeah.
And we're kind of trapped and cornered. But they managed to escape, of course.
Yeah.
And off they rush back, and they have to convince J Company. They go, who are we going to find to help us with this?
Yeah. And he's like, J Company.
J Company, they're all crazy.
Yeah.
And so then he uses his knowledge. He says, you're this, you're that.
Yep.
Your name's not really Ford, it's so-and-so. Ford was the name of the guy you fought with.
Yeah.
Who died and took his place, and send checks back to his mum or something. I didn't quite understand how that arrangement works. It doesn't really matter too much. And they say, and why should we believe you? Well, it's not me you're going to believe. And then in walks Rita, who then convinces them, essentially. And they all go, this sounds pretty bloody crazy. Let's do it.
Let's go off to the Louvre. And so they get in the plane and they're heading over there and they're all a bit, unsure about it all. And they head to the Louvre and we're coming over Paris and it's all
they
flooded.
sort of have to do it, I realise, in this one, because if they did have the power and repeated, would not the Omega realise what their plan is and would
Yes.
have...
Yeah, that's right. This is your one
Because they
chance.
fly over relatively unmolested.
Yes.
Not
yeah.
until they get right up to the final bit where they're
Well, so
inside.
it's not expecting that it knows that it's in Paris, right?
Yeah.
So they get there and they're coming in on Paris and they do get attacked then, as they're coming into sort of land and they end up crash landing a bit and there's, all the aliens, ground troops attack them. A couple of them get killed. A couple of them save them. They then realise that they're...
Well, that's the other beautiful point because Cage, so he's lost his magic time powers, which means he's got his last chance. And then
if he dies, he dies.
He falls out of his plane, losing most of his troops that he had and the plane that he had, the helicopter thing. And then he falls down into the river, presumably the Seine, and he has to abandon his power armor and his big guns. Yep. So he's basically stripped, one by one, he's stripped of each of these external influences, which...
Yeah, and he's back
each
to
of
just
his,
who he is at the start.
Because you get this in James Bond, isn't it? James Bond gets gifted with his magical items at the start.
Yeah.
And one by one, he uses them through the movie until he's left, it's just James and the final difficult situation. He doesn't have a little gadget to fall back on. And it's even the same as, it's mythology.
Yeah.
You're talking about Hercules or you're talking about Jason the Argonauts. They all get given their gifts. The gods, I can come to you 5 times and help you. And you go, okay, this is the last time. And then they up to
Then
them.
they're on their own.
And that's what that's what I really got out of this scene here, which I loved, is that, his troops are taken from him, his helicopter's taken from him, his armor is taken from him, his big guns are taken from him, and he's left there with Rita Skeeter. I keep wanting to call her Rita Skeeter. My daughter's starting to read Harry Potter, so that's on my brain. But he's trapped there with just what he's learnt along his way. And that's what I mean, that time looping was his process of personal development through, as you said, the foreshadowing it through combat. It's leveled him. He's grounded now. He's understands the value of life. He realizes the sacrifice that's been made. Yeah. And then we're left with just a handful of dudes, the Australian fellow, Griff or whatever his name is.
The perfect question there, Surrey, is that, okay, so you've just said it. They've taken away his suit, his plane, his protection around him, right? And his magical power of like dying and waking up the next day. And he's not quite there yet to succeed in the mission. No. So old Cage would run because that's what happened at the start.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you go into D-Day? No, I'm not going to D-Day. So here you are, the same situation. D-Day is over the other side of the river. You don't have much men around you. You don't have the best weapons. You don't have the best ideas. It's just pretty much going to be up to you. And he could run. Right? He could run the other way. But he's at this point now he's the opposite to the start, isn't he? He's now, no, I'm going ahead. Who's coming with me?
Yeah.
You know?
He realised that there is nothing, running doesn't achieve you things.
Yeah.
Running delays or avoids only temporarily. Yeah.
So he's learnt his thing. So yeah, anyway, I think there's a couple that have died and then they're like, he goes, well, we could it's a last ditch effort, isn't it? As well, it's like, well, we can get this plane we don't have to go up in the air again. We just need to kind of jump across the river. So we can get the plane to jump across the river. And a couple of the dudes go, well, we can stand and make sure you get off. And they do, the Australian guy. And they just start firing on all these aliens and gives them enough time to launch, and they get annihilated. Just sort of see them get wiped out. And there's the other guy forwards on the plane with them shooting, and then he gets annihilated. And then it's just the two of them left. Rita and Cage, and he takes on that fight, and they're attacking the ship, and he's blowing the crap out of the ship. But they kind of make it to the other side, don't they? And right on top of the Louvre, they crash into the Louvre.
Through the pyramid. That
pyramid thing, and they flood down. The whole place is kind of weirdly flooded, which I don't quite understand, but anyway,
it's below ground level. So
yeah, okay, well, fair enough. Whatever. So it's all a bit flooded.
The river's getting in there, I suppose.
Yeah, the river's in there and whatever. And so they get down below, and there's an alpha straight away. And so they're hiding.
Because if they kill the alpha, they'll just reset the day.
Yeah, but the alien will also...
Yeah, alien will know what happened, but Cage will reset and will try to do this again. Yeah. But he won't know.
He won't know the result, right?
That this is not... that this is not the first time.
Yes, and so then they do have a moment together as a couple, and she kisses him, so it kind of connects to the fact that he's knowing more about her, he's learnt more about her, but she kisses him, and she's...
Again, I think maybe she realises that for closure of her relationship, where she had grown to like this guy, but he only knew her for a day or so. Yeah. She goes, well, I didn't get to say goodbye to him. Yeah. So she says, okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Yeah. Because you're going to be in the same situation I was, that I'm going to be dead. Yep. Or we're probably both not going to get out, I think she says. But she didn't want to be in a situation, I think, where she died and he lives on, knowing so much about her, having such a personal relationship with her. So she does. She kisses him and,
and she thanks him for getting her this far.
Yes.
Which is it's an interesting line. I don't think it makes... I think it's one that you got to think a little bit about. Like, it makes a lot of sense when you've seen this film, but when in the heat of that moment, because she basically thanks him and then takes off, and what she's saying is that in her one day, he's come in and they've found the alpha, which is something that she had been hunting for a long time.
Validated her.
Yeah.
Alleviated her fears because she was going into this D-Day thing thinking it's just this.
Yes.
Maybe she was thinking perhaps I can find another alpha. I don't know how I did it the first time, but maybe.
Yeah.
And then he came along and gave this opportunity. She gets that vindication, validation.
That's right.
Revenge,
and they've actually gotten to the, because she didn't get to the Omega, remember? So it's like now we're at the Omega.
In fact, it may well have just been a pretend
thing anyway as well. Yeah. So she takes off and the Alpha takes after her. So it gives him time to kind of sneak past and head down to the water, and he dives in. But in that time, the Alpha kills her. And he knows that, he sees it, and then he starts swimming down to the Omega, and this Alpha is like suddenly like a great white, hey, like hits the water, it's just chasing down, and he's like, there's no way he's going to make it to the Omega, and then with that he's pierced through the chest.
The tentacles whip out.
Yeah, and so he hasn't made it, and he's got this kind of belt of grenades in his hand, but he's dead.
He drops it.
And he's floating away in the water, and this thing goes down into the big Omega.
We see the pins that he'd managed to pull. Yeah,
and then as he rotates around, I think he's actually got all the pins. So this grenade then goes off, and the Omega gets blown up. They all get kind of smitherized, don't they?
Paste.
Yeah.
But of course, and this was interesting, of course, that it fills the whole blood area with all of the blood of the Omega and the Alpha and all the rest of it. And I didn't really think about it the first time I watched this, but after watching it this time, because then it fades to black with Cage being engulfed in
the blood
and explosion, and then he wakes up in the helicopter where he was coming into London, and it's all different. There's bells ringing, there's celebration. And the announcement's made by the general, basically, who says, we don't know what it signifies, but there was a big burst of power, and then it's all silent. The aliens have all gone silent.
Yeah.
We've not come across any, and the troops and, the Russians and the Chinese are just walking into Europe.
Yep.
And, that's basically it, right?
Well, it's just that, and then he goes back to Heathrow, and he sees the J Squad. They're all happy la la.
Yeah.
They're going to go to D-Day, but it's not quite the same, going to be the same D-Day.
Yes, that's right.
And then he finds Rusky as well, and she's doing that weird training thing, and she doesn't know him. Yeah. She doesn't know him from a bar of soap, and he just chuckles.
And says that same thing, there's something on my face.
Yeah.
And, he has a bit of a laugh, which you can imagine then it would be pretty easy for him to say, yeah, the war's over, we did it.
Yeah.
Because she'd know that. She'd go, oh, that's
possible.
And that's possible, and it would also be like this. Like, it would be like, I don't remember anything being done. But see, what I was saying that made sense to me here, and I've really thought about, is the Omega. Can the Omega really die? Because I'm not sure. Like, so in this instance, for example, the Omega exploded, and obviously the blue blood and all that, and so Cage looped back. But who controlled this loop back? Because the Omega, as soon as it looped back, it went, okay, well,
I'm going to die.
Yeah, I die, and that last loop has me dying.
Yeah.
So that's not a loop I'm going to continue doing.
Yes.
Because it happened in that one take.
Yeah. So
it doesn't know what killed it. Like, there's just some dude suddenly there at the Louvre with bloody grenades.
Yes.
So it's, well, if I do this loop again, that's just going to happen again.
Yeah, so I just need to get the fuck out of the loop.
So basically these guys never lose.
We need to shape shift on that day. So that's the thing. You said before, he wakes up at Heathrow in the morning of the training and the battle. Yeah. Why is it that time? Is that when the aliens get ready for their battle? So it's the same here. Does it then loop back, and the alien, the Omega, would wake up and be like, oh, later today, some dude's suddenly going to blow the shit out of me.
Yes.
So we need to move now. We just need to get the hell out of here.
This planet is no longer viable.
Yeah, let's just get the hell out of it. Or we'll just move away from this location. Let's try not the Louvre, but the old Paris train station.
I have a feeling the alien just goes,
I don't want to die later today.
Maybe this doesn't happen anywhere else. Like in their memory that they've landed. Maybe because I think as Rita at some point says, maybe it's just humans are compatible in some way.
Yeah.
Because they don't really know why they got infected and are able to time loop. So maybe other places don't.
Yeah, that's right.
The dominant species don't get able to do this. So, but in any case, I like that the Omega, it vanishes. So I'm just wondering, is this the case that Omegas have landed, and if they do get overwhelmed and they're going to die, they actually just go back?
They just go back a couple of days and then leave.
And they just go, okay, well, we'll just go to somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll try another planet.
And it's interesting because they mentioned how many millions of these spore asteroids floating through the universe are there, which does lead open to a sequel.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, but then the thing is, what we're talking about right now, like, as I said, like, if it wakes up and goes, oh, shit, later today, Tom Cruise is going to come in and blow me up, I need to move locations. I think that's what the director was implying for the sequel, that it would be a prequel sequel, so it'd be possibly before this story. So we'd go back to maybe when the aliens land and they're taking over.
The alien would lose jumping backwards through time.
Yeah.
Until it first arrived, and it just goes, okay, this is not a winnable planet. This planet's not cool. I don't like it.
Or it just then tries a different, the whole thing, it tries it differently.
Well, yeah, you've got like a TV series on your hands.
Yeah. Because then it could just be like, well, when we landed in Germany. Why don't we land in Australia?
Yes.
And try from there.
Oh, crikey, it's dry here.
Yeah. But we've got an advantage. We've got like a solid land mass which is surrounded by water, and they have to come to us and we can just hold them off. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's the thing. Let's try that battlefront.
No, I'm much of the opinion that the Omega sort of said, it just cut its losses.
It just goes, I don't want to fight Tom Cruise ever again.
I'm going to die at the end of this day.
I don't want to die next time.
Because it's probably not worth it. There's other planets.
Yeah, true. Okay, so that brings us to the end. And you can let us know what you thought happens at the end there. Is Surrey right? Does the Omega just piss off?
Yeah, is that enough?
What will be the sequel of this film? They keep hinting that there will be a sequel. So this leads us into the ladder.
Has there already been a sequel, but it flopped? And so they keep coming back to try and figure out how to make the sequel work.
Oh,
and they just haven't yet done that.
Oh my goodness. Do you know there would be so many Hollywood producers out there that would love that to be possible?
I have a feeling there are a number of films. What was that one? Chaos Walking? Didn't they do that? They basically did the first take of it, put it out to test audience. Test audience said, we don't like this. Brought it back, got Spider-Man boy, what's his name? Garfield.
Put it into the cupboard and shut the door.
They got Garfield back and shot some new scenes.
Right.
Put a new cutout. It's like about 6 years of reshooting and re-editing, and kept showing it to test audience. You go, no. Finally, they released it. I think we've polished this turd as much as it's going to get. So I think, and that was the Omega dying section where finally they ran out of loops, and they said, well, we've either got to put it out at the cinema and hope it just makes money.
Well, this movie made money, but your premise just there for Hollywood producers would be the ultimate business case for them. Oh, you mean we can just keep testing this film until it's perfect? Oh my goodness. We'd never ever get a proper film ever made, would we? I don't think. No one would ever take a punt on anything.
No.
Because this would be a failure, you know. Oh, you only made 180 million. Oh, no, we want $1 billion, you know. But anyway, that leads us into the ladder. So this is kind of the regular ladder. For me, Surrey, I am putting this one in around number 12, after Paul, which is an alien invasion story of a totally different take, and Passengers. I think if you watch this film between those two, that would be quite good, because you kind of go from Paul, which is sort of the homage to the old school UFO alien invasion idea. You watch then, and a bit of comedy in there, you watch then this, which the narrative is very different. As we said, it's that temporal breakup of the narrative. And it's much bigger and grander and action-packed, and Tom Cruise doing his thing. And then you go into more Passengers, which, again, does have the time factor in there, but it's a little bit more about humans in space and that ethical question. I think they would be kind of a good little trilogy of films. in that order. So yeah, I'm bringing this one in on my ladder on about the 12th rung.
Well, here's mine, and this is an interesting take. I'm bookending it. So
Okay.
I've got Oblivion.
Yeah.
And one thing I liked about Oblivion, why I put it as number one, that you should watch that one, is because the story evolves so nicely. It's
Yeah,
so
it does.
naturally
Oblivion's
through,
great.
and it keeps you interested. Watching it for the second time that I watched it, I'd sort of forgotten some of the little details. And then, you watch through it and you get to the end, you just have that feeling like that was just a really well-executed story.
Yep.
With great acting. You had Morgan Freeman and you got Tom Cruise and drones, and who's the other fellow that's in it? I can't remember it. Anyway,
I can't remember either. Go back to and listen to our episode about Oblivion.
You get through this whole list, and you drop off the bottom with The Space Between Us, a teen love story, and then you're in the Edge of Tomorrow.
Fair enough.
So it's like a repeat. You got Tom Cruise sci-fi with just like this great, well-written, tight script right the way through, teen love story, and then just as you're sort of coming off that teen love story feeling, you're into this another Tom Cruise action sci-fi film, which is, again, it's just got this really great pacing of the script. Really, it's a really great script. I'm quite jealous of the way it does it. Each of the parts really plays so well.
I think so,
The middle with the aliens coming through. Every time we get, an increase of tension and stakes, and then everything stripped off him, he's got to come to terms, wins the day. That would be
fantastic.
That's how you end it.
Great.
Space Between
I like
Us,
it.
Into the Edge of Tomorrow.
So Tom at the stop and Cruisey at the start.
Then you go back to Oblivion and start from the top again.
Start the whole loop again.
What is that? It's 47 films or something or other in that, not
42 of the regulars.
That's about an hour and a half in each, or 2 hours each. It's about 80 hours. It's like
Get you
half
there.
a week. Half a week, and then you go through the
Non-stop.
classics. You're going probably about 4-5 days worth of continuous filming.
Yeah.
You'll be crazy by the end of that.
I think you would. You'd lose your noodle a little bit like Tom Cruise in this film. So that's excellent idea. I like that. And so let us know what you think about our ladder. I mean, are we on the right path? We will be publishing these, and we do have a special episode coming soon about the ladder. I promise it's coming. It's coming. We've talked about it for a long time, and we're gonna get there, Surrey, where we really break down the ladder. So we'll come back to that in the future. What about the science in this film, Surrey? Is it something to do with the time loop? Is it something to do with aliens? Is it something to do with both of those creatures coming together?
Or the
What is the
blood.
science?
No, it's not the blood. It's not
Yeah, the
time
blood.
lapse.
I love that shot. Don't you love that shot where you get splattered in the blue blood? I'm sure the director's like, yeah, Tom, just lie there and we're going to splatter you in some blue blood.
We're getting Mark Regan in with his shotgun to
We're going to
spray you.
spray you with some blue Mark Regan shotgun.
Okay, no, it's the exoskeleton armor. What I like that, 'cause
yes.
it's a great temptation in sci-fi to go, full armored combat Gundam suits.
Of
You
course.
got Pacific Rim, which are obviously big, great, huge, tall robots. But if someone says we're going to have power armor suits for the military in this sci-fi, it's easy then to have something that looks like a walking tank.
Yeah.
And in reality, they've gone with a far more realistic view on this one. Like, they look like actual technology that we have developed and we have today. They work a hell of a lot better than what we have today. But it looks believable that you could imagine if you had, 5 to 10 years, as they always say, 5 to 10 years of motivated research and development, you could probably get something that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because, the military has been looking for exoskeletons.
Yes.
And the reason for this is simple. I see it as being, it's that marriage or that parallel development between artificial intelligence and robots. So you've got artificial intelligence, and we have some forms of that for image analysis and detection, and even things like, drone flying and a few of those sorts of things. But they operate in like a computer, a box on the ground. A room full of computers is running some sort of algorithm.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, though, if you want to have like a robot, like you sort of see like C-3PO or something, it walks around and is artificial intelligent. At the moment, we can't marry those two together.
Yeah.
Because we can't fit a room full of computers into a humanoid robot. We can stick it into a car, so you have self-driving cars, which are getting better all the time. They're still kind of a bit...
Still a long way away from
crappy.
actual...
They're still 5 to 10 years off before we have fully self-driving cars. But you can build these two technologies in separate streams. So just like if you're going to look at... Before we had self-navigating drones, you had an aeroplane with a person in it.
Yep. And
there was no computers in there. They had like a stick which had wires going out to the levers and pulleys and ailerons and throttles and all the rest that they needed. And the human brain was the intelligence driving it.
Yes.
And so rather than having an android robot-y thing walking about the place self-intelligent, we'll just make like the shell of it and stick a person in there.
Yep.
So you can still have all of the brilliant advantages that humans have. We're so terribly adaptable. We have intuition.
Yeah.
We have, interpersonal relationship and communication, which allows for, much synergies of actions between people.
And you fly a plane, you have the ability to understand depth and, spatial awareness and the ability of like, oh, we're in the sky. This is serious. We're going to take, you can't just crash it. Of course, you could come to work on a bad day where you found out your wife was cheating on you and deliberately want to crash a plane. But, most of the time, most humans are rational in that, no, we want to fly this safely. And so they use their brain accordingly, don't they?
Yeah. And so we, rather than we can't build the robots, but you can say, get a human, start having some of the capabilities. Yeah. And then in time, you would then take the human out and have like a robot helper. And
that's like the self-driving car. You slowly take away.
Just the human leaves the driver's seat and becomes a passenger.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we want to have capabilities like carrying heavy objects. In the military, I've never done it myself, but I'm assured that they often have to carry heavy amounts of equipment.
Yeah.
Way back to the Roman soldiers when
of course.
They were marching, they would have to carry their shield and their sword and their pilums.
And what about those catapults? I mean, who pushed that?
And then they have to carry their spikes. Like, so when they would set up camp, they'd each be carrying 2 pole spikes, which they then have to dig a hole for and stick in and make a little fortress around themselves.
Yes, yeah.
That's a lot of stuff to carry.
There
might be 20, 30 kilos of equipment you've got to carry. And that tires the person out. And so if you have to fight at the end of a day, well, you're not going to be very fresh. You can't really do it very well.
Yep.
So we want like some sort of exoskeleton so human can walk along, and if they do have to fight, they're still kind of fresh.
Yes.
Because this exoskeleton has been doing it. And as we saw in the movie, you could also then take advantage of the fact that you can carry more weight, and you could stick more computers on there, and the fancy swivelly Predator guns that they had on there, which seemed pretty useful to me. And in fighting aliens, of course, you need heavier, chunkier guns.
Yes. Apparently. And
so, the military is very interested in this, but then civilians as well. In particular, warehouse workers. So they do have some robotized warehouses, but again, it's kind of specialist. The robots are pretty dumb. If the packages aren't in the right position, the robots just fail.
Yes.
Humans, though, can walk along and go, it's meant to be here. It's not there. And they can sort of look around a little bit and go, someone's put it. Oh, let me see.
Yeah, 15, let's stop and let's
15A. I wonder if it's at 51A. And they go, there it is.
Yeah.
Robots have trouble calculating that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not unless they have some reason to think that programmed into them, they won't.
Yep.
But then robots can carry a lot heavier weight. So, warehouse workers will want to be able to pick stuff up and not break their backs, which happens from time to time, or urinate in bottles, which allegedly occurs in some warehouses for some people.
Right.
Some people pay extra for it. But you'd think this is just a modern thing, like something really recent. And indeed, some of them are really recent. But this goes back to 1965, when General Electric created the Hardyman
Ooh.
powered exoskeleton. And it was this...
I think Adult Shop sells this now.
No, that's the Hardy Man.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah, the Hardy Man.
And it's not so much exoskeleton as it is massive bone. But it's an exoskeleton that looks a bit like Ripley's, power loader that she fights the alien queen with.
We seem to be obsessed with that type of
it's kind of a big heavy thing. And to be fair, back in 1965, the control equipment and circuitry so that was a bit clumsier than it is today. But it was this big thing. It weighed 700 kilos, but it was strong enough to lift about 680 kilos.
Yeah,
is what it could do and shift it around. The interesting question I have for you, though, is let me put for you this scenario. Imagine this sort of powered skeleton that can shift and move 680 and enough force to shift itself, which itself weighs 700 kilos, and shift another 700 kilos. Now imagine if when you tried to move both legs at the same time, the entire machine was racked with uncontrollable violent jerking movement. You can see the flaw in the design here.
You can,
they never worked out that bug, and so they never put a human being in it. Because they were terrified that they would rip a person to pieces.
Yes.
And this, of course, reveals one of the downsides of this sort of development is that when you're dealing with, you're making it stronger and able to move more things. So if you can pick up 680 kilos, you can apply that much force.
Huge amount of force.
Way more than a human can.
Yeah.
And if it moves too fast, the human inside is going to be... It's going to be wrenched quite badly.
Yeah. It's going to rip off the legs.
And the stronger you make the suit, the heavier you're going to have to make it.
Yeah.
So if it trips over and bumps into someone, you'll squash them. That thing weighed 700 kilos.
Yeah.
If it tripped over, you would crush people to death instantly.
Yep.
So, they kind of gave up on that, but it was a good idea.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Because when you're saying some of that stuff, I am thinking of the car, right? Like the car weighs a ton or two. And over time, it's weighed more and more. And it's squashed people. It's run over people. And yet we've kept making cars.
Yes, but it runs over people in a controllable and understandable way.
But it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. When like everything you just said there, I'm like, yeah, it makes so much sense. Like, it would rip someone's legs apart, right? So it's so dangerous. And then you're exactly right. In a factory, isn't this great? It can lift these massive amounts of weight like a forklift, but be more flexible and it could stack. A human could do it. But then if it just happened to trip over, it could just squish people. But then I'm like, yeah, but you know what? A car takes people out,
Well, what it does mean,
anyway,
of course, but
I'm just being
cars
devil's
also enclose humans. And when humans start walking on freeways, they do get squished.
Yeah.
And so they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. Like, so if you've got humans working in amongst these, you couldn't do it. It'd be too dangerous. You'd have to have them. But then you've got to have these these big exoskeleton things safe enough that you can have high enough control over them.
Correct.
Like thousands, millions of cars drive around every day without crashing anyone on.
Yeah.
Because they're relatively controllable.
Yes.
But here's an interesting one. So the Tsukuba University in Japan, they developed, this fellow, what's his name? Yoshiyuki Sankai. He developed this invention. And
of course,
with the Tsukuba University in Japan, along with a company called Cyberdyne, in case you're interested, they produced the hybrid assistive limb, also known as the HAL. So like they're kind of courting disaster, I think.
They are here with these names.
They've got the HAL 5.
I think they've lost a bit in translation, haven't they?
The HAL 5 and the HAL 3. So the
Open the doors,
hybrid
HAL.
assistive limb is actually in production, and you can get one now if you're lucky enough to be in one of these Japanese hospitals where they're implemented.
Yep.
They are very sleek, fancy. They're very smooth, very anime looking, or maybe sort of if you take like that sort of Apple iPod look, smooth, white, but then make it a bit Japanesey, so it's a little bit more curved and not so rectangular. That's what it looks like with blue features. It's primarily there to help people who can't move themselves. So elderly, incapacitated, and that it's used in hospitals and homes in order to provide some movement and therapy.
Right.
There are problems with, it's not fast. You can walk a couple kilometers per hour, like as a slow shuffle. And the battery power means that you operate it only for like short periods of time.
Yeah, right.
Which is much better than what it used to be. So one of the earlier, which one was it? One of the earlier robots.
First HAL.
Not the first one. Not by HAL. It was an earlier exoskeleton anyway. It used 3.8 kilowatts or something. No, 6 point something kilowatts.
Yep.
Which my motorbike put out that. Like, my 250cc motorbike put out about 7 or 8 kilowatts. So you're talking about like an internal combustion engine needed to run this thing. They got it down to 3 kilowatts, which is you still need to plug that into a household power supply in order to run it.
Yep.
But these things are now down to a much more manageable sort of 500 watts, which is, can put some, lithium ion batteries in there and run it for a couple of hours. Yep. Which, let's face it, if you're, paraplegic and you can happily sit there at your computer typing away, doing your whatever, and you go, I want to go get a cup of coffee. But the coffee's charged up. It's upstairs. Oh, what a pain in the bum. Well, you can actually sort of walk around and climb up the stairs, and you could go out to a cafe and meet your friends and sit and have a social time without necessarily having to be aware of all the accessibility options required. Ramps and so it's a wonderful freedom device, and they will get better and better. And the military's still looking to do it. That there's a lot of weaknesses when you look at a military option. Because a military one has to be very rugged. It has to be really foolproof. As I said, you need minimal training to be able to use it. Because if you're in a stressful, difficult situation, you don't want to have to be thinking about how to take control of a potentially dangerous suit.
That's right.
So they do.
It's not the greatest thing to have the suit rip apart your own soldiers.
That's bad.
Is there an advantage? Is there more advantages for that versus them just being soldiers?
Rather than just I don't know, give them a wheelbarrow to carry their stuff. It's probably a bit safer. A little bit funny looking, but it's been done in the past. But so that's it. I mean, until we can overcome, as a few of them, so the musculature, so actuation of these things, if electric motors or hydraulic pistons, they're not good enough. They're too slow or too powerful or too fast. Human muscles are really amazing things. So they're made of lots of little fibers with nerves running through them. And then when a signal gets sent into them, some portion of these muscle fibers release, I can't remember what it is now, please. I learnt this obviously back when I did my personal training. But it releases one chemical which causes some of the fibers to contract. And so they move together a little bit. And so the nerves pulse, and that sort of how fast they pulse determines how many of these fibers contract and how quickly they contract. So you can very finely graduate the force you provide. So you can easily pick up like an egg without crushing it. Like humans don't even have to think about that because the nerves just a little bit of a pulse, and pick it up, no worries. And then you can crush it if you want. You probably don't because it's a bit gross. But, trying to program a hydraulic system to do that, to get the force feedback, to then just pump just enough hydraulic fluid in there, like it's really slow. But humans can pick up eggs we can throw and catch eggs without any troubles. Trying to get the same level of accuracy in a robotic system that has to operate in conjunction with a human is really difficult. And so you end up with these slow shuffling kind of things because you don't have that control. And then the power systems is the other one. We even saw it in the movie here where he runs out of power. And he's stuck. He's dead on the field. Literally. He gets killed by an alien shortly after because his battery's taken out. That's right. And they had to leave when they found that helicopter, they had to leave their suits in the field. Maybe if they didn't have to do that, maybe they could have taken the helicopter. But out of battery power. So battery power, and our best batteries just aren't good enough for sustained
the batteries
usage.
are still a long way away, aren't
And
they?
there's a
For
fire
so much
risk.
stuff.
If you pierce a lithium battery, there's a good chance it'll catch on fire. And you know what? If you're in an armored power suit on a battlefield, the risks of being pierced are very high.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, but these things don't matter if you're a warehouse worker or if you're otherwise disabled.
No, that's right.
Like, I can only walk at 3 kilometers per hour, as opposed to sitting motionless on the ground. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to choose 3 kilometers per hour. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It'll only last for an hour and a half. Between recharges, I can plan my day around that.
That's right.
You know,
And even like being charged possibly like wirelessly in a one set location. You know, so it could possibly, so it could actually be, in a factory or a workplace or a home where it's just constantly being charged.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really matter, like about the power source.
Yeah.
And then that makes it lighter, or as you said, like within a workplace, it could be like similar to a forklift that you constantly are plugging into a power source. And so therefore, we need to lift that. Out it comes, we've just used it for 20 minutes, out it goes back, you recharge it.
Yeah.
And then you're back doing other stuff. We need to use it again. But the whole time it's just kind of constantly on charge, yeah.
But so this is not far-fetched science fiction. Like,
yeah.
there's really demonstrations of people using these things, obviously not as, acrobatically or amazingly as in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of time before it is like that.
Exciting.
I want to know, though, because as I said, there's AI is being developed alongside this robotic. Are we going to get to the point, though, that by the time we get the robotics so good that you'd have like an armored suit, we actually have AI good enough you put the AI in the armored suit and don't bother putting a person in there?
Well, that's right.
Or it would be in there with the person, and the person's basically sort of the passenger or the higher function. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that far off. I think we just need a few better materials, and we're getting better with our materials all the time.
Yep.
And some better battery power or something along those lines. I'm not sure we'll see it for military action too soon because of all of these. It's much easier just to tell a human to pick something up and move somewhere because they can make.
That's right.
Yeah, it's much cheaper, really.
It's much cheaper. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I don't think it is that far away. But like this movie stipulates, you kind of need a motivating driver of some of this technology for it to jump that. And that, the thing is, we've just seen the Richard Branson thing into space, and then the is it Bezos?
Bezos,
the Amazon version into space. And no matter what you think about any of that, the thing with that, and Muskie's not far behind them, you need that commercial drive on some of this, or an alien invasion where the governments go, do you know what, we just need to pour everything.
Were developed out of World War One.
Yeah.
World War One, they started to use sort of airplanes. They've had blimps, but airplanes were just starting to come in, and they're really realizing how very powerful they were. Like, for one thing, for example, they managed to start taking over some of the artillery roles and observation.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of development into that, and tanks came out of that. In World War II, aircraft became indispensable, and in fact basically saw the end of battleships. Yeah. Battleships became useless because you'd have an aircraft carrier, would then just launch a bunch of airplanes which would fly up. The battleship couldn't engage them until it was too late, and then the airplanes could drop torpedoes or bombs or
and even technology like the video camera. We all walk around with a little tiny camera in our back pocket, the mobile phone. The American military are the ones that pushed ahead with like a video camera device. But where it took off was when they literally could say, well, that technology can be a home video camera in the 80s. And Sony, etc., and other companies made it into, mum and dad, hey, film your kids and all this sort of stuff. And of course, what that does is it makes a supply and demand marketing commercial chain that, of course, encourages developers to go, okay, well, here's the video camera. How can we sell more? You need to make it smaller. You need to make it more portable. You need to make it cheaper. Oh, okay. Well, then that's what they do. They keep doing that and that and that. Same with anything you're talking about here. These robots and stuff. Yeah, there's danger involved in whether it works in military or not. But then it's like, if you could say, yeah, everyone that's a paraplegic, anyone that's older than the age of 50, you could have this like machine in the house 50. Helping you. I'm just saying, sorry. But it could be there to help do a lot of those other physical labor jobs. You go, oh yeah, we want to buy one of that. And as soon as you get that kind of marketing supply chain, these technologies take off.
Oh, absolutely. You gotta
that's what I meant by Bezos and Muskie and Branson and stuff. Like, no matter what you think about it, whether this is just a ridiculous amount of waste of money in space, but you need those investments so that there is those technological breakthroughs, because otherwise there's not a need for them. Yeah. Anyway, that's my take on it.
That's pretty much it, isn't it?
You need either the military or government to go, we need this device to be developed and we're going to pour millions of dollars into it, or you need a supply chain.
Yeah, you need a home audience large enough who suddenly say, you know what? Internet streaming, that's the way to go. We want broadband.
And we want it faster, 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 and we want it smaller, and we want it quicker, and we want it faster, and we want it littler, and we want it in our hands, and I want to be able to do it all the time. I want to be able to do it on a train, and I need that around me all the time. And you need millions and billions of people wanting that, and then suddenly, the companies pour money into that. Simple. Yeah, because, there's a market there to pay for it.
Okay, well, that is freaking amazing.
It is. Just like Edge of Tomorrow is amazing. So
Edge of Tomorrow, for sure.
It's a great, fun, entertaining movie. As I said, grab a bag of popcorn or whatever it does for you. Sit there.
Whatever boats you float.
Pump the stereo right up. Get Tommy in your face. He likes to blow shit up in this movie with Surrey's mate Blunto. And she swings the axe and does some yoga poses that will get you thinking twice about an alien invasion. And it's just a very enjoyable this movie. So hit us up, let us know what you thought about Edge of Tomorrow and what we've talked about it, where it is on our ladder, what we think about the science, what we think about the narrative construction. Did we miss anything of real importance to you? Find us on our website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and anywhere else pretty much out there. Probably email. It's probably an email floating around somewhere. If you live in
Mandurah, you might recognise me from some of my photos and say hello.
Yeah, say hello to Surrey.
Don't stalk me though.
Yeah. Fine, sorry. The film festival, make a sci-fi. Have a go. Maybe make one with a weird narrative structure like this one. Or not. It's up to you. As long as it fits that realm. We talked a bit about what is sci-fi tonight and why this film is a sci-fi. Think about your own film. Have a go. Make it and submit it. All right? So again, go to our website, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You'll find the links and submit it. If you've got any questions, hit us up. And that will do us for this time. Next film, Surrey.
2067.
Ooh.
How many people thought I was going to say 2012? No, it's 2067. It's an Australian science fiction film.
It is.
I read the one-sentence blurb, which made it sound a little bit time travel-y.
Okay.
I think it's like someone is going back in time to try and do something.
I've not seen this. I've heard some different reports online about it. I did see a trailer for this a few months ago, and it didn't look Australian to me. So I'm really excited to look at this and see where the filmmakers took this. I think the last one we watched, Infinity, blew our socks off.
Infinity was fantastic.
A real low budget sci-fi that just looks like this massive thing. We've had the privilege to speak to Luke Spark and watch a couple of the Occupation films, which again, Occupation, the sequel's doing astounding, according to Luke, and out there in the world, it's breaking some box office records, VOD records, whatever you want to call it, streaming records in the US at the moment, getting lots of critical acclaim. They're calling him the Michael Bay of Australia at the moment. So, good on Luke Spark. So, Yeah, I have not seen this film, so I'm going in completely blank, and I'm pumped to watch this.
It looks good.
That's exciting.
I've read the one sentence blurb.
That's all it takes for us at Space Brains to then go and have a look at what's good and what's great.
It's gonna be great.
Okay, until next time, I will catch you later.
Bye bye.
See ya.